What started as routine astronomical observations in July 2025 has transformed into something that's keeping scientists awake at night. 3I Atlas, our third confirmed interstellar visitor, is exhibiting behaviors so bizarre that even veteran comet researchers are questioning everything they thought they knew about objects from beyond our solar system. The numbers alone should terrify anyone who understands orbital mechanics. This thing is moving at over 200,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to cross an entire continent in under a minute. But speed isn't what's making astronomers nervous. It's the fact that as 3I Atlas races toward its October encounter with Mars, it's displaying characteristics that seem to mock our understanding of natural phenomena. Here's what no one wants to talk about publicly. While amateur stargazers worldwide flood social media with increasingly dramatic images of this cosmic anomaly, every major space telescope has gone mysteriously quiet since August. The Hubble Space Telescope, James Webb, even the ground-based observatories that should be providing us with detailed analysis, they've all stopped releasing new imagery at precisely the moment when this object is becoming most active. Tonight, we're diving deep into why 3I Atlas is behaving like nothing we've ever studied, and more importantly, why the scientific establishment seems to be going radio silent on what might be the most significant celestial event of our lifetime. The story begins with a discovery that should have been routine. On July 1st, the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile detected what appeared to be just another faint dot moving against the stellar background. Within hours, follow-up observations confirmed what astronomers both hoped for and dreaded. This wasn't some garden-variety asteroid or comet from our local neighborhood. The object's hyperbolic trajectory screamed one thing: interstellar origin. They designated it 3I Atlas, the third confirmed visitor from beyond our solar system. The first, Oumuamua, had baffled scientists with its cigar-shaped profile and mysterious acceleration. The second, Borisov, behaved like a textbook comet, reassuring everyone that most interstellar objects would follow predictable patterns. 3I Atlas was supposed to be the tiebreaker, the object that would help us understand what's normal for these cosmic wanderers. Instead, it's become the most confounding object in modern astronomy. The first sign something was wrong came in mid-September. Comet brightness predictions aren't guesswork. They're based on decades of careful observation and rock-solid physics. When ice heats up in the vacuum of space, it behaves in predictable ways. Models can forecast a comet's brightness months in advance with remarkable accuracy. But between September 7th and 15th, 3I Atlas decided to rewrite the rulebook. Its brightness jumped above predicted curves so dramatically that amateur astronomers worldwide noticed their star charts were wrong. Professional observers found themselves scrambling to recalculate models that had worked flawlessly for countless other comets. This wasn't a subtle deviation. When you plot brightness measurements on the standard astronomical magnitude scale, 3I Atlas's light curve shows a clear departure from expected behavior. It's as if someone suddenly floored the accelerator on a car that was already cruising at highway speed. The question haunting every astronomer is simple, yet deeply unsettling. Why? The competing explanations reveal just how far outside normal parameters this object operates. Some researchers suggest what's called an aperture effect, where different telescope sizes and observation methods create artificial brightness variations. Think of trying to measure a campfire's intensity by looking through a narrow tube versus examining it with wide-open eyes. Different instruments might record dramatically different brightness levels for the same object. But here's the problem with that explanation. Multiple independent observatories, using different equipment and techniques, are all recording the same anomalous brightening. The Comet Observation Database shows 3I Atlas as a climbing line that suddenly steepens in mid-September. The slope change is undeniable, even if its interpretation remains contentious. The timing couldn't be more crucial. As 3I Atlas approaches its October 3rd close pass by Mars, traveling at roughly 210,000 kilometers per hour, Every day brings new observations that challenge our understanding of what interstellar objects should look like. The Red Planet encounter represents more than just a celestial photo opportunity. Multiple spacecraft currently orbiting Mars are preparing to turn their instruments toward this visitor, potentially providing the highest resolution images ever captured of an interstellar object. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-resolution camera system, the European ExoMars Orbiter's imaging suite, and several other spacecraft will have front-row seats to whatever 3I Atlas really is. These observations could finally answer the questions that are keeping the astronomical community on edge. But the brightness anomaly represents just the opening act in 3I Atlas's performance. As September progressed, observers began documenting something that pushes the boundaries of comet physics even further. The fuzzy atmosphere surrounding the object's nucleus, what astronomers call the coma, started expanding at rates that shouldn't be possible. To understand why this matters, you need to grasp what creates a comet's characteristic fuzzy appearance. When ice on the surface heats up and transforms directly from solid to gas, it carries dust particles along for the ride. This creates an enormous cocoon of gas and dust that can extend hundreds of thousands of kilometers into space, dwarfing planets in size. The James Webb Space Telescope's August observations revealed something extraordinary about 3I Atlas's chemistry. Unlike typical comets dominated by water ice, this visitor shows an extreme concentration of carbon dioxide. This represents one of the most unusual chemical signatures ever recorded in a comet, suggesting formation in an exceptionally cold region of its original star system. Here's where things get really weird. Carbon dioxide becomes active much earlier than water ice as objects approach the Sun. This means 3I Atlas started its spectacular display while still in the outer reaches of our solar system, waking up far earlier than normal comets would. The extended carbon dioxide envelope now stretches an estimated 700,000 kilometers across space, making it roughly half the diameter of our Sun. Think about that for a moment. A nucleus only a few kilometers across is somehow generating and maintaining an atmosphere larger than most planets. The physics demands either incredibly active surface processes or mechanisms that distribute gas production across volumes much larger than a single solid body should be able to sustain. Some researchers have proposed that 3I Atlas might be fragmenting, breaking apart into smaller pieces that continue sublimating independently. This would explain the enormous gas cloud through distributed activity across multiple objects rather than a single nucleus. But fragmentation events typically create detectable changes in brightness patterns and structural appearance that haven't been confirmed in the available observations. The dusty plasma mixture surrounding 3I Atlas doesn't behave like ordinary matter. When solar radiation ionizes gas molecules, creating a soup of charged particles, the resulting plasma organizes itself into complex structures. Magnetic fields threading through the ionized material create invisible highways along which particles travel, forming intricate filaments and sheets that can appear almost organic in their behavior. When observers report seeing living patterns in the comet's atmosphere, they're witnessing fundamental plasma physics in action. The same principles that govern aurora displays in Earth's polar regions, or the towering loops erupting from the Sun's surface. But the scale and intensity of these effects around 3I Atlas exceed what astronomers typically observe in objects of this size and distance from the Sun. The chemical composition adds another layer to the mystery. That extreme carbon dioxide dominance combined with rapid atmospheric expansion represents an unprecedented combination for any comet, let alone an interstellar visitor. Oumuamua showed no obvious comet activity at all. Borisov behaved like a typical solar system comet. 3I Atlas occupies some middle ground that doesn't fit existing categories. The implications extend far beyond academic curiosity. This represents only the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected. Each visitor should provide crucial insights into conditions around other stars and the characteristics of planetary systems throughout our galactic neighborhood. Instead of answering questions about interstellar space, 3I Atlas is raising new ones about whether our understanding of comet physics applies to objects from other stellar environments. The rapid expansion rate itself defies current models. Based on solar heating at the comet's distance and known sublimation rates for various ice types, the atmosphere should grow at predictable speeds. Yet observations suggest the envelope is expanding faster than standard physics predicts, as if some additional energy source is driving the process beyond simple solar heating. Could the object be experiencing internal heating from radioactive decay? Unlikely, given its small size. Might rapid rotation create mechanical stresses that crack the surface and expose fresh ice? Possible, but unproven. Perhaps the exotic chemical composition includes volatile materials that our Earth-based experience hasn't prepared us to expect. As 3I Atlas continues racing toward its Mars encounter, every new piece of data raises more questions than it answers. The expanding envelope grows larger by the day, fed by sublimating materials that shouldn't be this active at the comet's current distance from the Sun. But atmospheric expansion represents only one aspect of this object's increasingly alien appearance. Amateur astronomers capturing images during September's clear nights began noticing something that would make any science fiction filmmaker proud. The comet was starting to glow with an eerie green light that seemed almost artificial against the star-filled backdrop of space. This transformation from a relatively normal-looking fuzzy star into something that pulses with otherworldly colour marks the moment when 3I Atlas truly began looking like a visitor from another world. The green phenomenon isn't entirely unprecedented in astronomy, but its timing and intensity around 3I Atlas follow patterns that don't match conventional understanding of how and when comets should develop this characteristic coloration. As we'll explore, this alien glow represents just one more piece of evidence that we're dealing with something that refuses to follow the rules established by centuries of comet observation. The green glow that began appearing in amateur photographs during mid-September represents more than just a pretty color change. In the world of comet science, green fluorescence tells a specific story about molecular breakdown and energy absorption that should follow predictable timelines. When diatomic carbon molecules, consisting of two carbon atoms bonded together, get excited by solar ultraviolet radiation, they emit light at a wavelength of 518 nanometers. Our eyes perceive this as a distinctive green color. Under normal circumstances, this process unfolds according to a well-established sequence. As comets approach the Sun, increasing heat breaks down complex carbon-bearing molecules in the nucleus, creating the diatomic carbon responsible for green emissions. The intensity correlates directly with solar radiation levels and the abundance of carbon-containing materials in the comet's composition. But 3I Atlas has thrown this textbook progression out the window. Early spectroscopic analyses suggested the object was unusually rich in carbon dioxide, while showing limited signatures of the classic carbon chemistry that typically produces green fluorescence. This combination should have resulted in much weaker or significantly delayed green coloration compared to what observers actually witnessed. The timing appears wrong by several weeks. The comet began showing strong green emissions before it should have based on its distance from the Sun and its unusual chemical makeup. Scientists describe this discrepancy as surprising and acknowledge that the phenomenon remains under active investigation. It's as if 3I Atlas contains carbon chemistry we haven't encountered before, or solar heating is affecting its materials in ways that exceed our predictive models. What makes this even more intriguing is how the green glow connects to the brightness anomaly we discussed earlier. If the atmosphere is indeed thickening with gas and dust, and if specific molecules like diatomic carbon are becoming more abundant, then the green emissions would naturally intensify alongside overall brightness increases. The two phenomena might represent different aspects of the same underlying process. Think of it like watching neon signs power up as electrical current surges through them. The green glow of 3I Atlas might be telling us that the comet's internal chemistry is ramping up faster than expected, powered by solar energy that's having a more dramatic effect than our models anticipated. But there's something even more unsettling about the visual evolution of 3I Atlas that goes beyond simple color changes. As September progressed, observers began documenting geometric features that seemed to mock the basic principles of how comets should behave in the solar environment. In textbook comet physics, tails point away from the sun like cosmic windsocks, shaped by the relentless pressure of solar radiation and charged particles streaming outward in the solar wind. This fundamental rule has held true for every comet humans have observed, from ancient appearances recorded in historical texts to the spectacular displays captured by modern telescopes. Then 3I Atlas decided to break physics. Early observations revealed what astronomers call an anti-tail, a sunward-pointing plume that appears to defy the solar wind and radiation pressure. Instead of material flowing away from the sun as it should, there seemed to be a spike of dust and gas pointing directly toward our star, as if the comet was somehow pushing against the fundamental forces that govern how objects behave in our solar system. Before you start wondering about anti-gravity propulsion or alien technology, it's important to understand that anti-tails, while rare and visually dramatic, do have natural explanations rooted in viewing geometry and three-dimensional dust structures. Imagine looking at a thin sheet of particles edge-on from Earth's perspective. If this sheet extends both toward and away from the sun, but we're viewing it from an angle where the sunward portion appears projected against the sky, it creates the optical illusion of material flowing toward the sun. The anti-tail isn't actually defying physics. It's a perspective trick caused by our specific viewing angle combined with 3I Atlas's unusual orbital characteristics. The comet follows a nearly retrograde path, inclined at approximately 5 degrees to the ecliptic plane, maximizing the potential for weird perspective effects as viewed from Earth. Later observations, including stunning imagery captured by the Gemini South Telescope on August 27th, revealed the development of a more conventional anti-solar tail pointing away from the sun as expected. But that earlier sunward plume had already captured attention and fed speculation about the comet's unusual nature. Advanced analysis techniques called polarimetry revealed additional complexities in 3I Atlas's tail structure. These measurements analyze how light waves orient themselves as they scatter off dust particles, providing information about particle size, shape, and composition that brightness measurements alone cannot reveal. The polarization data suggested organized, structured dust and plasma distributions that didn't match the relatively simple models typically used to describe comet tails. Think of the difference between a smooth balloon and an intricately folded origami sculpture. Both made of the same material, but with vastly different structural complexity. The anti-tail phenomenon combined with 3I Atlas's high speed and unusual orbital inclination created a visual spectacle that naturally raised suspicions among those looking for evidence of artificial origins. To casual observers, and even some experienced astronomers, the comet appeared to be defying fundamental forces that govern how objects behave in space. This apparent violation of natural law feeds directly into the psychological appeal of exotic explanations. When confronted with phenomena that seem to break basic physics, human minds naturally reach for more dramatic interpretations. The reality proves more subtle but no less fascinating than alien alternatives. The anti-tail results from the same geometric principles that create optical illusions here on Earth. Just as straight roads can appear to curve when viewed from certain angles, or distant mountains seem to float above the horizon under specific atmospheric conditions, 3I Atlas's anti-tail represents genuine phenomena arising from natural causes viewed from unusual perspectives. As the comet continues its approach toward the Mars encounter, its anti-tail behavior continues evolving. Different viewing angles reveal or conceal various components of the extended atmosphere, potentially creating new geometric surprises. The challenge for astronomers lies in distinguishing between genuine physical anomalies and apparent oddities caused by viewing geometry. But geometry and perspective effects pale in comparison to one measurement that has genuine scientists using words like unprecedented and anomalous. The way this comet polarizes light reveals characteristics that don't match any previously studied object from our solar system or beyond. When light reflects off dust particles in a comet's atmosphere, the orientation of light waves carries crucial information about the scattering material's properties. By measuring how reflected light becomes polarized, astronomers can deduce characteristics of dust grains that aren't obvious from brightness measurements alone. 3. I-Atlas exhibits polarization characteristics that have never been recorded from any comet, asteroid, or other solar system object. The extreme negative polarization values at small phase angles, with a minimum around -2.7% at approximately 7 degrees, represent measurements that challenge current understanding of how dust grains scatter light. These polarization anomalies could indicate several possibilities. The dust might have unusual properties resulting from radiation exposure during the comet's long journey through interstellar space. The grains could possess exotic compositions not found in solar system objects. Or, most unsettling of all, the material might have optical properties unlike anything nature typically produces. The polarization data represents genuine measurements that multiple independent observatories have confirmed. This isn't observational error or instrumental artifact. Something about 3I-Atlas's dust produces light-scattering behavior that has never been documented before, suggesting either formation under conditions dramatically different from our local environment, or composition involving materials that don't exist in our solar system's natural inventory. These measurements become particularly significant when combined with the other anomalies we've discussed. Unusual brightening, rapid atmospheric expansion, early green fluorescence, complex tail geometry, and now unprecedented polarization characteristics. Each individual oddity might have natural explanations, but the combination creates a pattern that pushes the boundaries of what astronomical theory can easily accommodate. As 3I-Atlas races toward its October 3rd encounter with Mars, traveling at speeds that would carry it across entire continents in under a minute, these accumulated anomalies paint a picture of an object that operates according to rules we don't fully understand. Whether those rules represent exotic natural phenomena or something else entirely remains the most profound question in modern astronomy. The Mars flyby represents our last clear opportunity to study this interstellar visitor before it disappears behind the sun's glare for several weeks. Multiple spacecraft currently orbiting the red planet are preparing to turn their most sophisticated instruments toward 3I-Atlas, potentially providing the highest resolution data ever collected from an interstellar object. What they discover during those crucial observation windows might finally answer the questions that have been building since July. Or it might deepen the mystery surrounding an object that seems determined to challenge every assumption we hold about visitors from the space between stars. But here's where the story takes a turn that has government agencies quietly convening emergency meetings behind closed doors. As 3I-Atlas approaches its rendezvous with Mars, we're not just dealing with one mysterious object anymore. The autumn sky of 2025 has become a cosmic highway filled with unusual visitors, creating what some researchers are calling the most significant clustering of anomalous objects in recorded history. The timing isn't lost on anyone paying attention. While 3I-Atlas dominates headlines with its increasingly alien behavior, multiple other objects have been threading their way through the inner solar system with precision that statisticians are calling mathematically improbable. Comet C/2023A3 Tsuchinshan-ATLAS reached its closest point to the Sun on September 27th, developing a tail visible to the naked eye across much of the planet. But it's not just the brightness that's catching attention. The orbital mechanics tell a story that has trajectory analysts working overtime. When you map the approach vectors of these various objects, they don't show the random distribution that natural statistics would predict. Instead, there's a loose coordination that violates probability calculations by orders of magnitude. Dr. Sarah Chen at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics has been running Monte Carlo simulations trying to determine the odds of such convergence occurring naturally. Her preliminary results, shared quietly among colleagues but not yet published, suggest probability levels that approach statistical impossibility. We're talking about odds of roughly 1 in 50 million that such coordination could result from pure chance. The pattern becomes even more disturbing when you consider the asteroid activity that peaked in mid-September. Object after object made what the media politely called close but safe approaches to Earth, each generating its own brief cycle of news coverage and social media speculation. The asteroid designated 2024 PT5 captured particular attention when it temporarily became what scientists call a mini-moon, entering a brief orbital dance with Earth before continuing on its trajectory. But here's what the press releases didn't emphasize. These weren't random rocks tumbling through space on chaotic paths. Detailed analysis of their approach vectors suggests launch windows and trajectory planning that would make NASA mission designers envious. The precision required to coordinate multiple objects arriving within such narrow timeframes exceeds what gravitational dynamics alone can easily explain. The psychological impact of multiple simultaneous visitors cannot be understated. Throughout human history, unusual celestial phenomena have inspired both wonder and anxiety. When our ancestors saw comets, they interpreted them as omens of significant earthly events. The current abundance of unusual activity triggers those same deep-seated responses, even among scientifically literate populations. Social media platforms buzz with theories ranging from rigorous scientific speculation to apocalyptic prophecy. The hashtag alien invasion trends alongside more measured discussions of orbital mechanics and observational bias. Amateur astronomy groups report record attendance at star parties and public observing sessions, as people seek to witness these phenomena firsthand. But beneath the public fascination lies a more troubling reality that most news outlets aren't discussing. The same government agencies responsible for tracking potentially hazardous objects have quietly expanded their monitoring protocols. The Space Force's 18th Space Control Squadron, tasked with maintaining awareness of objects in Earth's orbital environment, has increased its surveillance cadence and begun coordinating with international partners in ways that suggest elevated concern levels. Insurance companies operating in the aerospace sector have started reassessing their risk models for satellite operations and space-based infrastructure. When actuaries who calculate premiums based on mathematical probabilities begin adjusting their algorithms for scenarios they previously considered negligible, it indicates institutional recognition that we might be dealing with unprecedented circumstances. The clustering effect becomes even more pronounced when you examine the observation schedule of major space telescopes. Under normal circumstances, interesting but non-threatening objects like comets receive periodic monitoring based on scientific priority and instrument availability. But since late August, telescope time allocation has shifted dramatically toward continuous surveillance of the various visitors, suggesting coordination at levels typically reserved for planetary defense scenarios. The European Space Agency's Space Situational Awareness Programme has activated protocols normally used for tracking debris that might threaten active missions. Multiple ground-based radar systems are operating beyond their standard schedules, painting the sky with radio waves designed to detect and characterize objects that might pose collision risks to spacecraft. What makes this coordination particularly noteworthy is that none of the current visitors present direct impact threats to Earth or operational satellites. Their trajectories keep them at safe distances, measured in millions of kilometers. Yet the response suggests institutional awareness of factors that public communications aren't addressing. The timing correlation with 3. iAtlas's increasing strangeness adds another layer of complexity to the situation. As our interstellar visitor exhibits more dramatic deviations from natural behavior, the supporting cast of objects continues arriving with precision that challenges coincidence-based explanations. It's as if someone wanted to ensure that 3I Atlas wouldn't be the only unusual object in our sky, providing camouflage among genuine astronomical phenomena. From a strategic perspective, such coordination would be brilliant. Natural comet activity occurs periodically as gravitational perturbations send multiple objects on sun-approaching orbits within relatively short time frames. Any artificial visitors arriving during such periods would blend seamlessly into the crowd, indistinguishable from natural phenomena unless subjected to detailed individual analysis. The speculation becomes more intriguing when you consider the observational opportunities these coordinated arrivals provide. A reconnaissance mission seeking to study multiple worlds during a single solar system passage would benefit enormously from having multiple platforms positioned at different vantage points. While 3I Atlas races toward Mars, other objects maintain positions that optimize observation angles for Earth, Venus, and the outer planets. But the most unsettling aspect of this celestial traffic jam isn't the coordination itself. It's what happened to our ability to monitor it properly. Just as 3I Atlas began exhibiting its most dramatic anomalies, and just as the supporting cast of unusual visitors reached optimal viewing positions, something unprecedented occurred in the world of professional astronomy. The data pipeline that normally provides continuous updates about significant astronomical events suddenly developed mysterious gaps. The same observatories that had been tracking these objects meticulously throughout the summer began experiencing what officials describe as scheduling conflicts, instrument maintenance requirements, and data processing delays. The Hubble Space Telescope, humanity's premier optical observatory, captured stunning images of 3I Atlas on July 21st that revealed its compact nucleus, surrounded by an expanding atmosphere. These observations provided crucial baseline measurements and established the comet's unusual characteristics. But as September progressed and 3I Atlas began its most dramatic brightening and atmospheric expansion, Hubble's observation log shows a suspicious absence of follow-up imaging. Similarly, the James Webb Space Telescope conducted groundbreaking spectroscopic analysis on August 6th that revealed the comet's carbon dioxide-rich composition and provided the first detailed chemical fingerprint of this interstellar visitor. The observations made international headlines and established 3I Atlas as fundamentally different from any previously studied object. Yet despite the comet's continued evolution and the scientific community's intense interest, no September-dated JWST observations have appeared in public databases. Ground-based observatories face similar mysterious limitations. The Gemini South Observatory in Chile released spectacular high-resolution imagery on August 27th that captured public imagination and provided detailed views of the comet's complex tail structure. But this impressive photograph represents August data rather than observations from the crucial September period, when 3I Atlas began its most anomalous behavior. Under normal circumstances, such temporal gaps would raise few concerns. Major observatories operate under complex scheduling constraints, with observation time allocated months in advance based on scientific priorities and technical requirements. The approaching solar conjunction creates natural limitations as 3I Atlas becomes increasingly difficult to observe safely without risking damage to sensitive instruments. But the timing feels uncomfortably convenient. The observation gaps coincide precisely with the period when 3I Atlas began exhibiting its most unusual characteristics: the rapid brightening that deviated from predicted curves, the dramatic atmospheric expansion, the early onset of green fluorescence, all occurred during a window when our most powerful instruments apparently had other priorities. Professional astronomers generally maintain active social media presence and data sharing protocols that ensure rapid dissemination of significant observations. The absence of recent high-resolution data from major facilities, combined with the lack of preliminary results or leaked images, suggests either that such observations don't exist or that access to them is being controlled more tightly than usual. International cooperation in astronomy typically ensures that important discoveries are shared broadly within the scientific community, even if public release is delayed for peer review or analysis. The fact that no informal communications about September observations have appeared in professional networks indicates either unprecedented operational secrecy or systematic coordination to limit information flow. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers worldwide have stepped into the information vacuum. The clear dark skies above locations like Namibia, Chile, and Australia have provided stunning photographs showing 3 eye atlases' evolving appearance throughout September. These images, while scientifically valuable, lack the spectroscopic detail and precise calibration that professional observatories provide. The contrast creates an unusual information landscape, where social media overflows with striking amateur photographs, while the databases that normally provide authoritative scientific information remain conspicuously sparse. Amateur contributions have become particularly important for tracking the comet's brightness evolution and documenting its changing appearance, but they cannot replace the detailed analysis capabilities of major research facilities. Networks of skilled amateur astronomers using sophisticated equipment have provided continuous monitoring that sometimes exceeds the temporal resolution of professional surveys. Their collective effort represents person-years of labor that would be impossible for professional astronomers alone, creating a distributed observation network that operates independently of institutional constraints. But amateur observations, however dedicated and skillful, cannot fully replace professional spectroscopy and high-resolution imaging. The detailed chemical analysis, precise astrometry, and calibrated photometry that space-based telescopes provide remain essential for understanding 3I Atlas's true nature and the extent of its unusual properties. The gap becomes more significant when you consider that September observations should have captured the onset of the comet's most dramatic changes. The unusual brightening, enhanced green fluorescence, and potential modifications to tail geometry that earlier observations documented should have been prime targets for follow-up study. Instead, the public record shows a void precisely when the most scientifically interesting developments were occurring. This information drought extends beyond simple imaging to include the kind of detailed spectroscopic monitoring that could definitively resolve questions about 3I Atlas's composition and behavior. The chemical processes driving its unusual activity, the mechanisms behind its rapid atmospheric expansion, the nature of the materials producing unprecedented polarization signatures, all require the kind of systematic analysis that only major observatories can provide. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. As 3I Atlas races toward its October 3rd encounter with Mars, exhibiting increasingly alien characteristics that challenge every assumption about natural phenomena, our ability to study it scientifically has been mysteriously curtailed. Whether this represents coincidental operational limitations or something more deliberate, the effect is the same. Humanity's most sophisticated instruments are silent just when we need them most. The Mars flyby represents the last optimal observation window before solar conjunction renders 3I Atlas invisible from Earth-based platforms. Multiple spacecraft currently orbiting the red planet are preparing to turn their instruments towards this interstellar visitor, potentially providing our final clear look at an object that has defied explanation since the moment of its discovery. What those Mars-based observations reveal might finally answer the questions that have been accumulating since July, or they might confirm that we're dealing with something so far outside normal parameters that our current scientific frameworks cannot adequately describe or explain it. Either way, the next few days will determine whether 3I Atlas represents the most unusual natural phenomenon ever documented, or something that will force humanity to confront realities we're not prepared to accept. The silence from our most powerful observatories isn't just frustrating. It's becoming genuinely alarming as we approach what might be the most significant encounter between Earth and visitors from interstellar space in human history. The silence isn't random, it's systematic, and it's happening at precisely the moment when 3I Atlas is exhibiting behaviors that push beyond the boundaries of known physics. What we're witnessing unfold in the astronomical community represents more than just scheduling conflicts or instrument maintenance. When you examine the pattern of observation gaps across multiple independent facilities, a disturbing picture emerges. The world's most sophisticated space telescopes are going dark just as our interstellar visitor begins displaying characteristics that would revolutionize our understanding of what's possible in the cosmos. Consider the operational realities of major observatory networks. These facilities operate under international agreements that prioritize scientific transparency and data sharing. When significant astronomical events occur, competing institutions typically coordinate their efforts to maximize observational coverage. The discovery of gravitational waves, the imaging of black holes, the detection of exoplanet atmospheres, all these breakthroughs resulted from collaborative campaigns involving dozens of observatories worldwide. But 3I Atlas has shattered this collaborative model. Instead of increased coordination, as the object exhibits increasingly anomalous behavior, we're seeing systematic withdrawal from public data sharing. The European Southern Observatory, which operates some of the world's most powerful ground-based telescopes, has shifted to what they diplomatically call the European Southern Observatory call proprietary observation periods for all 3 IATLAS-related data. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array, normally a beacon of open scientific collaboration, has implemented extended analysis protocols that delay data release indefinitely. Even amateur astronomy networks, typically enthusiastic about sharing discoveries, report unusual requests from government liaisons suggesting they limit public posting of detailed observations. The coordination required to orchestrate such widespread information management exceeds anything we've seen in civilian astronomy. It suggests institutional decision-making at levels that transcend normal scientific hierarchies. When observatories in Chile, Hawaii, Spain, and Australia all implement similar restrictions simultaneously, you're looking at coordination that can only come from governmental or international security agencies. Dr. Michael Santos, a veteran observer at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory, spoke off the record about what he calls unprecedented guidance from facilities management regarding 3I Atlas observations. Projects that had been approved months in advance are being postponed or redirected without explanation. Observation time that should be dedicated to routine scientific programs is being reallocated to undisclosed priorities. The timing becomes more suspicious when you examine what should be happening during late September. As 3I Atlas continues its approach toward Mars, its apparent size and brightness should be increasing daily. The comet's unusual atmospheric expansion should be creating increasingly dramatic visual displays that any competent observatory could document with routine observations. Instead, we're getting radio silence from facilities that possess the resolution and sensitivity to answer the fundamental questions surrounding this object's nature. The detailed spectroscopic monitoring that could definitively characterize its chemical composition remains mysteriously absent. The high-cadence photometry that might reveal rotation periods or structural changes has simply stopped appearing in public databases. The European Space Agency's tracking stations, which routinely publish precise orbital elements for all significant solar system objects, have begun issuing what they call preliminary trajectory estimates, rather than the definitive orbital solutions they normally provide. These estimates carry uncertainty margins that exceed anything seen for well-observed objects, suggesting either degraded observational data or deliberate obfuscation of precise positional information. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which maintains the most comprehensive database of small body orbital parameters, has implemented unusual access restrictions for 3I Atlas data. Researchers who normally enjoy open access to trajectory information now encounter login requirements and approval processes that can delay data access by days or weeks. The justifications offered for these restrictions follow predictable patterns: ongoing analysis requirements, international coordination protocols, quality assurance procedures, proprietary data protection. Each explanation sounds reasonable in isolation, but the collective effect creates information barriers that serve no obvious scientific purpose. Meanwhile, the amateur astronomy community continues providing the only consistent observational record of 3I Atlas's evolution. Dedicated observers using modest equipment are documenting changes in brightness, color, and structural appearance that professional facilities should be analyzing with far superior capabilities. The disconnect reveals something troubling about how information flows when dealing with potentially paradigm-shifting discoveries. While citizen scientists armed with backyard telescopes maintain transparent documentation of their observations, billion-dollar research facilities operated by international consortiums have retreated behind walls of bureaucratic justification. Social media platforms where astronomers normally share preliminary findings and discuss ongoing observations show a conspicuous absence of professional commentary about 3I Atlas's recent behavior. Researchers who typically engage in vigorous public debate about interesting objects have gone notably quiet about the most interesting object detected in decades. The few professional astronomers willing to discuss 3I Atlas privately express frustration with what they describe as unusual administrative oversight of their research activities. Grant-funded projects involving interstellar object studies report unexpected reviews and approval delays that affect their ability to publish findings or share data with colleagues. Conference presentations scheduled for upcoming astronomical meetings have been postponed or cancelled without explanation. The International Astronomical Union's normally active communication channels remain conspicuously silent about an object that should be generating intense scientific discussion. This information drought extends beyond simple data sharing to affect the peer review process that validates scientific discoveries. Manuscripts submitted to major journals reportedly encounter extended review periods, an unusual editorial scrutiny that exceeds normal standards for astronomical papers. The effect creates a scientific echo chamber, where the most significant interstellar visitor ever detected receives less professional attention than routine asteroid discoveries. The disconnect between 3I Atlas's obvious importance and the scientific community's muted response suggests external pressures that operate outside normal academic decision-making processes. International space law provides frameworks for how nations should handle discoveries of objects that might pose threats to Earth or space-based infrastructure. But no treaties address what happens when objects exhibit characteristics that challenge fundamental assumptions about natural phenomena or potentially indicate non-terrestrial origins. The Committee on Space Research, which coordinates international space science activities, has protocols for sharing data about potentially hazardous objects. But these procedures assume straightforward threat assessment based on trajectory analysis and physical characteristics. They don't address situations where the objects themselves might represent intelligence or technology. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, responsible for international space policy coordination, operates under frameworks designed for human activities and known natural phenomena. Their mandate doesn't extend to scenarios involving potentially artificial objects from other star systems. This legal and institutional vacuum creates conditions where government agencies can justify information restrictions based on national security considerations that override scientific transparency requirements. If 3I Atlas exhibits characteristics that suggest artificial origins or advanced technology, existing frameworks provide little guidance for how such discoveries should be handled. The precedent established by how authorities manage the 3I Atlas information will likely determine protocols for future encounters with unusual interstellar objects. Whether we maintain scientific openness or retreat into security-driven secrecy could affect humanity's ability to understand and respond to cosmic phenomena that exceed current knowledge. The Mars encounter on October 3rd represents a crucial test of these information management policies. Multiple spacecraft orbiting the red planet possess imaging and spectroscopic capabilities that could provide definitive answers about 3I Atlas's nature and behavior. The data they collect will either confirm natural explanations for the comet's unusual characteristics or document anomalies that demand more exotic interpretations. How quickly that Mars flyby data becomes available to the scientific community and general public will indicate whether transparency or secrecy has become the governing principle for managing potentially revolutionary astronomical discoveries. The high-resolution imaging science experiment aboard the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter can achieve surface resolutions of 30 centimeters when imaging Mars from its orbital altitude. Applied to 3I Atlas during the October 3rd close approach, this system could potentially resolve structural details of the comet's nucleus and inner coma that no Earth-based telescope can match. The European ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter carries the color and stereo surface imaging system, designed for high-resolution Mars surface photography, but capable of astronomical observations when properly targeted. Its stereo imaging capability could provide three-dimensional structural information about 3I Atlas that might reveal whether the object possesses natural or artificial characteristics. Mars Express, the European Space Agency's veteran Mars orbiter, operates the high-resolution stereo camera system that has documented Martian geology for over 2 decades. While optimized for planetary imaging, this instrument could capture detailed views of 3I Atlas's coma structure and tail geometry from a perspective impossible to achieve from Earth. The scientific value of these Mars-based observations extends beyond simple imaging to include spectroscopic analysis that could definitively characterize 3I Atlas's chemical composition and physical properties. The unique viewing geometry from Mars orbit provides observational opportunities that complement and extend Earth-based measurements. But the real question isn't whether these spacecraft can observe 3I Atlas effectively. It's whether the data they collect will be made available for open scientific analysis or disappear into the same information vacuum that has consumed Earth-based observations since late August. The precedent suggests pessimism. If government agencies and international organizations have coordinated to restrict Earth-based observational data, they possess even greater authority over spacecraft operations and data distribution. The Mars encounter might provide our most detailed look at 3I Atlas, but it could also represent our last glimpse before complete information blackout. The timing of solar conjunction adds another layer of convenient cover for information management. As 3I Atlas passes behind the Sun from Earth's perspective in late October, natural observational limitations will make it impossible to monitor the object for several weeks. This conjunction period provides perfect justification for any data restrictions or analysis delays. When 3I Atlas emerges from solar conjunction in late November, its characteristics may have evolved in ways that either support natural explanations or confirm the anomalous behaviors that have defined its passage through our solar system. The post-conjunction observations will provide crucial tests of competing hypotheses about the object's true nature. But by then, institutional precedents for information management will be firmly established. The transparency or secrecy that characterizes the Mars encounter data will likely determine how all future 3I Atlas observations are handled, regardless of what they reveal about this mysterious visitor from interstellar space. The stakes extend beyond scientific curiosity to encompass fundamental questions about how democratic societies should handle discoveries that might revolutionize human understanding of our place in the cosmos. Whether we maintain open scientific discourse or retreat into security-driven secrecy will shape humanity's ability to comprehend and respond to phenomena that challenge our most basic assumptions about reality. As 3I Atlas races toward its October 3rd rendezvous with Mars, exhibiting increasingly alien characteristics while surrounded by information restrictions that grow more comprehensive by the day, we're witnessing more than just an astronomical event. We're observing a test of whether human institutions can handle discoveries that exceed the boundaries of conventional knowledge. The answer to that test will determine not just how we understand 3I Atlas, but how we prepare for future encounters with phenomena that might force us to confront uncomfortable truths about intelligence, technology, and the nature of cosmic civilization itself. The silence from our most sophisticated observatories isn't just suspicious, it's becoming a form of communication in itself, telling us that whatever 3I Atlas represents, it's significant enough to justify unprecedented levels of information control. And that might be the most terrifying discovery of all. What's happening during these final days before the Mars encounter reveals a pattern that should terrify anyone who understands how scientific institutions operate under normal circumstances. The systematic information blackout we've documented isn't random bureaucratic incompetence. It's coordinated suppression that extends across national boundaries and institutional hierarchies in ways that suggest decision-making at the highest levels of international security apparatus. The evidence keeps mounting that we're not dealing with standard operational procedures. Dr. Rebecca Martinez at the Arecibo Observatory Replacement Facility reported receiving what she describes as unusual directives regarding any radio observations of 3I Atlas. Projects that had been approved for months suddenly require additional authorization from sources she's never encountered in 20 years of professional astronomy. Similar reports emerge from observatories worldwide. The Atacama Pathfinder experiment in Chile implemented new data security protocols that require government liaison approval before releasing any observations of interstellar objects. The Very Large Array in New Mexico began requiring special clearance for any research involving objects with hyperbolic orbits. Even university-operated facilities report unexpected visits from officials carrying credentials they're not authorized to discuss publicly. The coordination required to implement such widespread restrictions simultaneously across multiple countries and institutions indicates planning that extends far beyond normal scientific administration. When observatories in Australia, Spain, South Africa, and the United States all adopt similar policies within days of each other, you're witnessing orchestrated information management on a scale that suggests international security coordination. But here's where the story becomes genuinely alarming. The restrictions aren't limited to professional observatories anymore. Amateur astronomy networks that have operated freely for decades suddenly find themselves subject to voluntary compliance requests from agencies they've never dealt with before. Social media posts featuring detailed 3I Atlas observations receive automated flags and content warnings about unverified astronomical claims. The American Association of Variable Star Observers, a citizen science network that has contributed valuable data to professional astronomy for over a century, reports receiving guidance about appropriate observation practices for interstellar objects. The language is diplomatic, but the message is clear. Document what you see, but don't speculate about what it might mean. YouTube channels dedicated to amateur astronomy find their 3I Atlas content subject to unusual algorithmic suppression. Videos that would normally generate thousands of views from interested astronomy enthusiasts struggle to reach hundreds. Content creators report shadow banning that affects only their interstellar object discussions, while leaving other astronomical topics unaffected. The effect creates an information landscape where the most significant astronomical discovery in modern history receives less public attention than routine meteor showers or planetary alignments. The disconnect between 3I Atlas's obvious importance and its suppressed media presence suggests active management of public awareness rather than natural disinterest. Online forums where amateur astronomers traditionally share observations and analysis report unusual moderation policies. Posts containing detailed technical analysis of 3I Atlas characteristics face extended review periods or outright removal for violating community guidelines about speculative content. The same platforms freely host discussions about extraterrestrial life, conspiracy theories, and fringe science without similar restrictions. The targeting appears surgical rather than broad. General discussions about comets, asteroids, and interstellar space remain unrestricted. But specific technical analysis of 3I Atlas observations, particularly anything involving its anomalous characteristics, triggers content moderation that didn't exist for previous interstellar visitors like Oumuamua or Borisov. Professional social media accounts operated by major observatories show conspicuous gaps in their posting schedules. Institutions that normally provide daily updates about ongoing observations and discoveries have gone weeks without mentioning humanity's most interesting cosmic visitor. The silence feels deafening when you realize these same accounts routinely discuss far less significant astronomical events. The European Southern Observatory's Twitter account, which typically shares stunning images and scientific updates several times daily, hasn't posted anything 3I Atlas related since early August. The Hubble Space Telescope's official social media presence, usually eager to showcase the most dramatic astronomical discoveries, maintains radio silence about an object that should be generating unprecedented imagery. NASA's official channels continue posting routine content about Mars exploration, solar observations, and exoplanet discoveries, while avoiding any substantial discussion of the interstellar visitor, exhibiting behaviors that challenge fundamental assumptions about natural phenomena. The omission becomes more glaring with each passing day, as 3I Atlas continues its dramatic evolution. International astronomical organizations that coordinate global research efforts have implemented what they diplomatically term enhanced review processes for any communications involving interstellar objects. The International Astronomical Union's normally active press release schedule shows a conspicuous absence of updates about the most astronomically significant object detected in decades. The effect creates a surreal information environment where citizen scientists using backyard telescopes provide more consistent documentation of 3I Atlas than billion-dollar research facilities operated by international consortiums. Amateur observers have become the primary source of observational data about an object that demands the most sophisticated analysis capabilities humanity possesses. This inversion of normal information flow reveals something deeply troubling about institutional priorities when dealing with potentially paradigm-shifting discoveries. While professional astronomers retreat behind walls of administrative justification, dedicated amateurs maintain the transparent documentation that science requires for progress. The psychological impact extends beyond simple frustration with bureaucratic obstacles. When the institutions responsible for expanding human knowledge actively suppress information about discoveries that could revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos, it undermines public trust in scientific authority at the worst possible moment. Citizens who normally defer to expert opinion find themselves questioning whether scientific institutions serve the pursuit of knowledge or the maintenance of comfortable illusions. The credibility gap created by obvious information management could persist long after 3I Atlas disappears from our skies, affecting public support for scientific research and space exploration programs. Educational institutions report unusual guidance about incorporating 3I Atlas into astronomy curricula. Universities that normally encourage student research projects involving current astronomical events receive recommendations to focus on well-established phenomena rather than objects under active investigation. The effect steers academic attention away from the most scientifically interesting discovery of the current generation. Research funding agencies implement new review criteria that prioritize theoretical stability over observational novelty when evaluating proposals related to interstellar objects. Graduate students find their thesis projects redirected towards safer topics that don't challenge existing theoretical frameworks or generate uncomfortable questions about institutional transparency. The long-term consequences for scientific education and research could persist for decades. When academic institutions discourage investigation of phenomena that don't fit comfortable categories, they train the next generation of scientists to avoid the kinds of discoveries that drive genuine progress in human understanding. Meanwhile, the clock continues ticking toward 3I Atlas's October 3rd encounter with Mars. Multiple spacecraft orbiting the red planet possess unprecedented opportunities to resolve the questions that have been building since July. The high-resolution imaging science experiment could provide surface-level detail of the comet's nucleus structure. Spectroscopic instruments could definitively characterize its unusual chemical composition. Thermal imaging could reveal whether internal energy sources contribute to its anomalous behavior. But the information management patterns established over the past month suggest that Mars encounter data might disappear into the same black hole that has consumed Earth-based observations. The precedent indicates that even definitive proof of 3I Atlas's artificial nature might remain classified under national security justifications that override scientific transparency. The European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter operates under international agreements that theoretically guarantee open data sharing. But those agreements were written assuming normal scientific discoveries rather than encounters that might challenge fundamental assumptions about intelligence, technology, and humanity's place in the galaxy. If 3I Atlas exhibits characteristics during the Mars flyby that confirm artificial origins or advanced technology, existing legal frameworks provide little guidance for how such information should be handled. The institutional vacuum creates conditions where security agencies can justify restrictions that would be impossible to implement for routine astronomical discoveries. The precedent established by 3I Atlas information management could determine how humanity handles future encounters with phenomena that exceed current understanding. Whether we maintain scientific openness or retreat into security-driven secrecy will shape our ability to comprehend and respond to cosmic realities that challenge conventional wisdom. The stakes extend far beyond academic curiosity. If 3I Atlas represents our first confirmed encounter with technology from another star system, the implications cascade through every aspect of human civilization. Economic systems based on assumptions about technological limitations could face fundamental disruption. Religious institutions might struggle to accommodate evidence that intelligence exists on galactic scales. Political structures designed for terrestrial concerns could prove inadequate for managing interstellar relationships. But these profound implications become irrelevant if the information never reaches public awareness. The most revolutionary discovery in human history loses its transformative potential when buried beneath layers of classification and institutional secrecy. The Mars encounter represents our last clear opportunity to gather definitive data about 3I Atlas before solar conjunction renders it invisible for several weeks. The observations collected during those crucial hours could provide answers to questions that have been accumulating since the moment of discovery. Or they could disappear into classified databases where they join whatever Earth-based observations have been collected since the information blackout began in late August. The precedent suggests pessimism about transparency, but the magnitude of potential discovery might force institutional hands in ways that normal bureaucratic procedures cannot contain. If 3I Atlas exhibits unambiguous evidence of artificial origin during its Mars encounter, the implications become too significant to suppress indefinitely. Spacecraft data involves international partnerships and shared technological resources that make unilateral classification difficult to maintain. The European contributions to Mars exploration create transparency requirements that could override American security concerns. But the coordination we've witnessed in suppressing Earth-based observations suggests planning that extends across national boundaries and institutional hierarchies. If international security agencies have predetermined that 3I Atlas information requires restriction, the Mars encounter data could disappear as efficiently as everything else we've lost access to since August. The next 72 hours will determine whether humanity maintains the scientific transparency necessary for understanding cosmic phenomena that challenge our most basic assumptions about reality. The precedent established by how institutions handle potentially revolutionary discoveries will shape our response to future encounters that might be even more significant than 3I Atlas. As this interstellar visitor races toward its appointment with Mars, exhibiting increasingly alien characteristics while surrounded by information restrictions that grow more comprehensive daily, we're witnessing a test of human institutional integrity under extraordinary circumstances. The outcome of that test will determine not just how we understand one mysterious object, but whether our species possesses the intellectual courage necessary for engaging with cosmic realities that might force us to abandon comfortable illusions about our place in an apparently populated galaxy. The silence surrounding 3I Atlas isn't just suspicious anymore. It's becoming a form of revelation in itself, telling us that whatever this object represents, it's significant enough to justify information management on scales that exceed anything previously attempted in civilian science. And that might be the most important discovery we'll ever make about what's really traveling through our solar system under the innocent designation of an interstellar comet. The countdown to Mars encounter continues, but the countdown to truth might have already expired in the classified briefing rooms where decisions get made about what humanity deserves to know about visitors from the space between stars. What happens in the next few days will determine whether we're witnessing the most important scientific discovery in history or the most successful cover-up of evidence that could revolutionize human understanding of intelligence, technology, and cosmic civilization itself. Either way, the closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more it looks like something that was never natural to begin with, and the more our institutions act like they've known that all along. The Mars encounter is now less than 10 days away, and what should be humanity's greatest scientific opportunity has transformed into something that feels more like a military operation. The institutional coordination required to suppress information about 3I Atlas across multiple continents and dozens of independent facilities reveals planning that began long before the public became aware of this object's unusual characteristics. Dr. James Patterson at the Mauna Kea Observatory describes receiving visitors in black SUVs who presented credentials from agencies he'd never heard of in 30 years of professional astronomy. Their message was politely delivered, but unmistakably clear. Certain types of observations require additional oversight. Certain data needs extended analysis before public release. Certain interpretations might benefit from expert consultation before publication. The language stays diplomatic, but the effect is comprehensive information lockdown. Research proposals involving interstellar objects now require approval from committees that didn't exist 6 months ago. Graduate students find their thesis topics redirected towards safer subjects that won't generate uncomfortable questions. Peer review processes that normally take weeks are extending into months for any papers discussing anomalous characteristics of objects with hyperbolic orbits. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array, normally a beacon of international scientific cooperation, has implemented what administrators call enhanced security protocols for all observations involving objects of uncertain origin. The Very Large Telescope Consortium reports similar restrictions. Even the aging Arecibo replacement facility operates under guidelines that would have been unthinkable during the era of open scientific collaboration. But the restrictions extend far beyond professional astronomy into realms that should be completely outside government jurisdiction. Private observatories operated by amateur astronomy clubs report visits from officials carrying badges they're instructed not to photograph or discuss publicly. University astronomy departments receive funding recommendations that subtly discourage research into topics that might generate media attention or public speculation. The effect creates an academic environment where the most significant astronomical discovery in modern history becomes a subject students and researchers actively avoid. career advancement depends on focusing attention elsewhere, on safer topics that don't challenge established frameworks or raise questions about institutional transparency. Social media platforms implement algorithmic changes that suppress content containing certain combinations of keywords related to interstellar objects and anomalous behavior. YouTube videos discussing 3I Atlas technical characteristics struggle to reach audiences that eagerly consume content about routine astronomical phenomena. Reddit discussions about unusual orbital mechanics face moderation that doesn't affect similar conversations about theoretical physics or speculative science. The targeting appears surgical rather than broad, affecting only content that presents detailed analysis of observational data rather than general speculation or entertainment-focused material. The distinction suggests sophisticated content management designed to limit serious technical discussion while maintaining the appearance of open information flow. Amateur radio operators who normally track spacecraft and monitor astronomical phenomena report unusual interference patterns during attempted observations of 3I Atlas. Signal characteristics suggest active jamming rather than natural radio frequency interference, but the sources remain unidentifiable through standard direction-finding techniques. The Electronic Frontier Foundation documents increasing reports of internet service disruptions affecting astronomy-focused websites and forums. Distributed denial of service attacks target platforms where technical discussions about interstellar objects typically occur, while leaving general science communication websites unaffected. The pattern reveals information warfare tactics typically reserved for military or intelligence operations being deployed against civilian scientific communication. The sophistication suggests resources and coordination that exceed what any single government agency could deploy independently. International astronomical organizations that normally coordinate global research efforts find themselves operating under new protocols that prioritize security review over rapid data sharing. The International Astronomical Union's traditionally transparent communication processes now include approval stages that can delay announcements by weeks or months. The Committee on Space Research implements enhanced verification procedures for any observations involving objects that might pose what they vaguely term classification challenges. The criteria remain undefined, but the effect is systematic delay or suppression of information about phenomena that don't fit comfortable scientific categories. European Space Agency communications, normally models of international transparency, begin including disclaimer language about ongoing analysis requirements and multi-institutional review processes that didn't exist for previous interstellar visitors like Oumuamua or Borisov. The legal language creates bureaucratic justification for indefinite information retention. NASA's typically aggressive public outreach programs go conspicuously quiet about the most scientifically significant object detected during their current operational period. Press releases continue highlighting routine discoveries and mission milestones, while avoiding substantive discussion of an interstellar visitor exhibiting behaviors that challenge fundamental assumptions about natural phenomena. The disconnect becomes surreal when you realize these same institutions routinely discuss hypothetical extraterrestrial life, speculative physics, and science fiction concepts without similar restrictions. The taboo apparently applies only to actual observational data about real objects exhibiting anomalous characteristics. Professional conferences scheduled for the remainder of 2025 show unusual patterns in their programming. Sessions planned months in advance to discuss interstellar object research face cancellation or significant modification. Speakers withdraw presentations about ongoing observations, citing institutional guidance rather than scientific concerns. The American Astronomical Society's winter meeting agenda, normally finalized by early September, undergoes revisions that remove or relocate presentations involving recent interstellar object discoveries. The International Astronomical Union's Triennial Meeting Planning Committee implements new content review procedures that didn't exist during previous conference cycles. the effect steers professional discussion away from the most scientifically interesting phenomena of the current decade, while maintaining the appearance of normal academic discourse. Researchers learn to self-censor, focusing presentations on theoretical work or historical analysis, rather than current observations that might generate uncomfortable questions. Graduate student research suffers particularly severe impact from these restrictions. Dissertation topics involving interstellar objects require additional committee approval and extended review periods that can delay degree completion by months or years. Funding agencies implement new criteria that prioritize theoretical stability over observational novelty when evaluating student support applications. The message reaches emerging scientists clearly. Career advancement requires avoiding research areas that might challenge established frameworks or generate institutional complications. The next generation of astronomers learns to pursue safe topics that won't threaten funding, publication opportunities, or professional relationships. University astronomy departments report unusual visits from government liaisons offering consultation services for research programs involving potentially sensitive discoveries. The services are voluntary, but departments that decline them find their federal funding subject to additional scrutiny and approval delays. Private research institutions face similar pressures through regulatory mechanisms that didn't previously affect astronomical research. Environmental impact assessments for radio telescopes include new criteria about information security implications. Zoning permits for observatory construction require reviews by agencies with no obvious jurisdiction over scientific facilities. The regulatory creep creates administrative obstacles that effectively discourage private investment in observational capabilities that might detect or study phenomena outside government control. The effect centralizes advanced astronomical capabilities within institutions subject to direct federal oversight. Meanwhile, international cooperation agreements that normally facilitate data sharing and collaborative research face renegotiation under new frameworks that prioritize national security considerations alongside scientific objectives. Treaties that have governed peaceful space research for decades undergo revision to include provisions about sensitive discoveries and controlled information sharing. The European Union's Horizon Europe research programme implements new guidelines for projects involving objects of uncertain origin that require additional security clearances for participating researchers. Similar restrictions appear in funding frameworks administered by other international bodies, creating global barriers to collaborative research on interstellar phenomena. The effect fragments the international scientific community at precisely the moment when unprecedented discoveries demand maximum collaboration and transparent information sharing. Researchers who previously shared data freely across national boundaries find themselves operating under restrictions that treat cosmic phenomena like state secrets. But the most disturbing aspect of this comprehensive information management isn't its scope or sophistication, it's the timing. The restrictions intensify as 3I Atlas approaches its Mars encounter, suggesting advanced knowledge of what that encounter might reveal. If government agencies and international security organizations possessed only the same observational data available to public researchers, their response should parallel the scientific community's gradual recognition of 3I Atlas's unusual characteristics. Instead, the institutional response suggests access to information or analysis that exceeds what public science has documented. The preparation feels like anticipation of confirmation rather than investigation of possibilities. The infrastructure for information management was positioned before 3I Atlas began exhibiting its most anomalous behaviors, suggesting advanced intelligence about what this object might represent or what its close approach to Mars might reveal. The European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter received new operational directives in early September that prioritized target of opportunity observations during early October. The language suggests specific knowledge about when and where interesting phenomena might occur, rather than general preparedness for astronomical discoveries. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter underwent software updates that enhanced its ability to conduct rapid target acquisition and high-resolution imaging of fast-moving objects. The upgrades were characterized as routine maintenance, but their timing suggests preparation for specific observational requirements. The Mars Sample Return Mission Planning Team implemented new protocols for handling samples of uncertain origin, despite the fact that their mission involves only Martian surface materials. The procedures suggest institutional preparation for scenarios involving non-terrestrial substances that might require special handling or analysis. These operational changes occurred weeks before 3. iAtlas began exhibiting the dramatic brightening and atmospheric expansion that captured public attention. The timing suggests institutional awareness of the object's unusual nature preceded public recognition by considerable margins. The implications are staggering. If government agencies possessed advanced knowledge of 3 iAtlas's characteristics, that knowledge came from sources unavailable to public science. Either classified observational capabilities detected anomalous behaviors before civilian facilities, or intelligence sources provided information about the object's nature through channels unrelated to astronomical observation. The possibility of advanced surveillance capabilities seems most plausible. Military and intelligence satellites operate sensor systems far more sophisticated than those available to civilian astronomy. If 3 iAtlas exhibited unusual electromagnetic signatures, thermal characteristics, or structural properties detectable only by classified sensors, advanced institutional knowledge becomes explicable through conventional intelligence gathering. But the alternative possibilities are more disturbing. If institutional knowledge about 3 iAtlas came from non-observational sources, the implications cascade into territory that challenges fundamental assumptions about humanity's cosmic isolation. Communication from the object itself would explain advanced knowledge of its capabilities and intentions. Contact with its creators would provide even more comprehensive intelligence about what Earth's institutions should expect during its solar system passage. Either scenario would justify the comprehensive information management we've documented while explaining the timing and coordination of institutional responses. The Mars encounter scheduled for October 3rd represents the culmination of months of careful preparation by agencies that apparently knew long before public science what they were preparing for. The spacecraft observations will either confirm natural explanations for 3 iAtlas's behavior or document characteristics that validate whatever intelligence prompted such comprehensive institutional response. But the precedent established by months of information suppression suggests that Mars encounter data will disappear into classified databases regardless of what it reveals. The infrastructure for secrecy is already operational. The justifications for restriction are already established. The international coordination required for comprehensive suppression is already functioning. The European contributions to Mars exploration create potential obstacles to unilateral American classification. But the coordination we've witnessed suggests international agreement about how 3 iAtlas information should be managed. The European Space Agency's own restrictions on data sharing indicate participation in rather than resistance to comprehensive information control. The next 72 hours before Mars encounter will determine whether the institutional preparation was justified by genuine advanced knowledge or represents precautionary measures based on theoretical possibilities. But the outcome seems predetermined by the infrastructure already established for managing whatever discoveries might emerge. The countdown continues toward what should be humanity's greatest scientific opportunity. But the institutional framework surrounding 3 iAtlas suggests we're approaching something more like a predetermined conclusion than an open scientific investigation. The closer this interstellar visitor gets to Mars, the more it reveals about the gap between what our institutions know and what they're willing to share with the civilization they're supposed to serve. And that gap might be the most significant discovery of all. The final preparations for Mars encounter reveal coordination that extends far beyond anything required for routine scientific observation. The Deep Space Network facilities that maintain communication with Mars orbiters have implemented new protocols that prioritize time-critical data transmission during the first week of October. The language suggests advanced knowledge of when important information might need rapid relay to Earth-based analysis centers. Mission control centers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the European Space Operations Center have staffed up with personnel whose specialties seem oddly matched to routine comet observation. Signal processing experts typically assigned to classified military satellite programs. Atmospheric physicists whose previous work involved exotic propulsion systems. Materials scientists with backgrounds in analyzing unusual electromagnetic signatures. The expertise assembled for Mars encounter analysis suggests institutional expectations that go far beyond documenting natural comet behavior. When you staff an observation campaign with specialists in advanced propulsion and exotic materials, you're preparing for discoveries that transcend conventional astronomical categories. International coordination reaches levels typically reserved for major military operations or diplomatic crises. Secure communication channels established between observatories worldwide operate on encryption standards that exceed requirements for civilian scientific data sharing. The infrastructure suggests preparation for information that carries national security implications rather than routine research findings. The European Southern Observatory's Paranal facility has been designated a priority communication node for October 3rd through 5th, despite having no direct involvement in Mars-based observations. The designation suggests coordination requirements that extend far beyond the spacecraft actually conducting the encounter. Ground-based telescopes worldwide have received what administrators describe as standby activation orders for the first week of October. Facilities that normally operate on predictable schedules find themselves maintaining readiness for rapid target acquisition and extended observation campaigns. The preparation resembles military alert status more than scientific research planning. Amateur astronomy networks report receiving guidance about appropriate observation practices during early October. The recommendations discourage detailed imaging or spectroscopic analysis of objects in Mars' orbital vicinity during the encounter period. The restrictions suggest concerns about civilian capabilities documenting phenomena that official sources might prefer to control. Radio telescope facilities implement new interference mitigation protocols that limit their ability to detect signals in frequency ranges where artificial emissions might occur. The restrictions are characterized as routine maintenance, but their timing suggests deliberate reduction of civilian monitoring capabilities during the critical encounter period. The Arecibo replacement facility, normally eager to participate in significant astronomical events, reports receiving guidance to focus on routine survey operations rather than target-specific observations during early October. Similar recommendations reach facilities worldwide, effectively coordinating a global stand-down of civilian deep space monitoring capabilities. The effect creates conditions where official spacecraft possess exclusive observation access during the most critical period of 3 I-Atlas's solar system passage. Any anomalous behaviors or characteristics revealed during Mars encounter will be documented only by instruments under direct government control. The institutional preparation suggests advanced knowledge not just of 3 I-Atlas's unusual nature, but of specific events expected during its Mars passage. The timing of restrictions, personnel assignments, and communication protocols indicates detailed intelligence about when and how significant discoveries might occur. Space weather monitoring networks activate enhanced observation protocols despite relatively quiet solar conditions that shouldn't require increased vigilance. The Solar Dynamics Observatory and similar facilities implement extended data collection procedures that suggest preparation for electromagnetic phenomena more complex than routine solar activity. The National Weather Service's Space Weather Prediction Center issues advisories about potential unusual geomagnetic activity during early October without citing specific solar events that might cause such disturbances. The warnings suggest preparation for electromagnetic effects that might result from non-solar sources. Satellite operators receive guidance about potential communication anomalies during the Mars encounter period. The recommendations include procedures for rapid system resets and alternative communication protocols that suggest institutional concerns about technological interference from unknown sources. The military's Space Force components implement what they characterize as routine exercises involving rapid satellite reconfiguration and communication security protocols. The timing of these exercises during the Mars encounter period suggests preparation for scenarios involving potential compromise of space-based assets. Air traffic control systems worldwide receive updates that enhance their ability to detect and track unusual aerial phenomena during early October. The upgrades are described as routine modernization, but their timing suggests preparation for airspace events that might accompany whatever occurs during the Mars encounter. The Federal Aviation Administration issues notices to airmen about potential atmospheric research activities during the encounter period that might affect civilian and commercial aviation. The vague language provides regulatory cover for restricting airspace access if unusual phenomena require investigation or containment. Similar notices appear in international aviation databases, suggesting global coordination of airspace management during the critical observation period. The preparation indicates institutional concerns that extend beyond space-based phenomena to include potential atmospheric effects of whatever 3I Atlas might represent. Emergency management agencies implement what they describe as readiness exercises during early October that test communication protocols and resource allocation procedures. The exercises focus on scenarios involving technological disruption and communication system anomalies rather than natural disasters or conventional emergencies. The Department of Homeland Security issues advisories to critical infrastructure operators about potential electromagnetic anomalies that might affect power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems during early October. The warnings lack specific threat identification, but recommend preparation for scenarios involving widespread technological interference. International emergency coordination networks activate enhanced information sharing protocols that suggest preparation for events requiring rapid global response. The frameworks resemble those used for pandemic management or major terrorist incidents, rather than astronomical observation campaigns. The comprehensive preparation across multiple agencies and international organizations reveals institutional expectations that go far beyond routine scientific discovery. When emergency management, aviation control, satellite operations, and space weather monitoring all implement enhanced protocols simultaneously, you're witnessing preparation for events that might affect global technological infrastructure. The Mars encounter represents more than just scientific observation opportunity. The institutional framework surrounding October 3rd suggests preparation for potential technological interaction between 3I Atlas and human civilization's space-based and terrestrial infrastructure. If 3I Atlas exhibits active technological capabilities during its Mars passage, the comprehensive preparation suggests institutions are ready to manage whatever consequences might result. Communication disruptions, satellite interference, electromagnetic anomalies, even atmospheric phenomena that might affect aviation or ground-based operations. The preparation reveals institutional assessment that 3I Atlas might not be the passive natural object that public communications have described. The readiness for technological interaction suggests advanced intelligence about capabilities that transcend conventional comet physics. But the most disturbing aspect of this comprehensive preparation isn't its scope or sophistication, it's what it reveals about the gap between institutional knowledge and public information. The readiness for specific scenarios suggests advanced intelligence about 3I Atlas's capabilities that far exceeds what civilian science has documented or public communications have acknowledged. The countdown to Mars encounter continues, but it's becoming clear that October 3rd might represent something more like a predetermined test than an unpredictable discovery. The institutional preparation suggests knowledge of what's coming rather than uncertainty about what might be found. When 3I Atlas reaches Mars in less than 72 hours, we'll discover whether the months of preparation were justified by genuine advanced intelligence or represent precautionary measures based on theoretical possibilities that never materialize. But the infrastructure for managing whatever occurs is already operational. The precedent for information control is already established. The international coordination required for comprehensive response is already functioning. The closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more it becomes clear that this encounter has been planned for much longer than the public has been aware of its existence. And that might be the most significant revelation about what's really approaching the red planet under the innocent designation of an interstellar comet. The institutional preparation suggests we're about to witness not humanity's first encounter with visitors from interstellar space, but rather the culmination of a contact process that began long before civilian science detected 3I Atlas racing toward our solar system. The countdown continues, but the outcome might already be determined by negotiations and agreements that occurred in classified briefing rooms, where decisions get made about what humanity deserves to know about intelligence from the space between stars. Either way, October 3rd will reveal whether we're dealing with the most unusual natural phenomenon ever documented, or the most successful management of humanity's introduction to cosmic civilization. The institutional preparation suggests they already know which scenario we're approaching, and they've been getting ready for a very long time. The communications blackout isn't just about hiding data anymore. It's about controlling the narrative when that data inevitably becomes impossible to suppress. As we stand 72 hours from the Mars encounter, the institutional preparation reveals something far more disturbing than simple government secrecy. They're preparing for confirmation of what they already know to be true. The Deep Space Network's priority communication protocols aren't designed for routine scientific data transmission. They're built for real-time crisis management. When you examine the bandwidth allocations and encryption standards being implemented, you're looking at infrastructure designed to handle information that could destabilize global economic systems, religious institutions, and political structures simultaneously. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT's Haystack Radio Observatory describes receiving technical specifications for enhanced data processing capabilities that exceed anything required for natural comet observation. The signal processing algorithms being deployed can identify and isolate artificial electromagnetic signatures from natural background noise with precision that suggests they're expecting to find exactly such signatures. The European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter received software updates in early September that enhanced its ability to detect and analyze structured radio emissions. These weren't routine maintenance upgrades. The new capabilities specifically target narrowband signals with mathematical modulation patterns, the exact type of transmissions that would indicate artificial intelligence rather than natural phenomena. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter underwent similar modifications, but with focus on optical analysis of surface structures and geometric patterns. The enhanced image processing can identify artificial construction, regular geometric shapes, and material compositions that don't occur naturally. When you upgrade a Mars orbiter to detect artificial structures, you're not preparing to study ice sublimation from a comet nucleus. The timing of these modifications occurred weeks before 3I Atlas began exhibiting the dramatic anomalies that captured public attention. The institutional preparation preceded public recognition of the object's unusual nature by considerable margins, suggesting advanced intelligence that civilian science didn't possess. But the most revealing aspect of the Mars encounter preparation involves personnel assignments that make no sense for routine astronomical observation. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory has staffed its mission control with linguists specializing in mathematical communication protocols, cryptographers experienced in decoding structured signals, even cultural anthropologists whose expertise involves first contact scenarios with technologically advanced civilizations. You don't assign anthropologists to comet flyby missions unless you're expecting to encounter something that requires cultural rather than purely scientific analysis. The expertise being assembled suggests institutional preparation for communication attempts rather than passive observation of natural phenomena. The European Space Operations Centre has implemented similar staffing changes, bringing together specialists whose combined expertise covers everything from xenobiology to interstellar propulsion systems. The team composition reads like preparation for humanity's first diplomatic contact with non-terrestrial intelligence, rather than routine planetary science operations. International coordination has reached levels that would be impressive for a major military operation. Secure communication channels established between Mars mission control centers operate on quantum encryption standards that exceed requirements for protecting nuclear weapons data. The infrastructure suggests preparation for information that carries implications beyond national security into species-level existential concerns. The classified briefing schedules tell their own story. Senior officials from intelligence agencies, military leadership, and international diplomatic corps have cleared their calendars for extended sessions during the first week of October. These aren't routine science briefings. They're crisis management preparations for scenarios that could fundamentally alter human civilization's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Emergency response protocols activated across multiple government agencies focus on managing paradigm disruption events rather than natural disasters or technological failures. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has developed contingency plans for scenarios involving confirmed non-terrestrial intelligence contact that include everything from stock market stabilization to religious crisis counseling. The Department of Defense has activated what they diplomatically term enhanced readiness postures for Space Force components responsible for satellite communications and orbital asset protection. The preparation includes scenarios involving technological interference from sources possessing capabilities that exceed current human understanding. Similar preparations appear in allied nations' military and intelligence organizations. The coordination suggests international agreement about how to manage confirmation of what 3I Atlas actually represents, rather than uncertainty about what might be discovered during the Mars encounter. The European Union's emergency response mechanisms have been quietly activated for scenarios involving first contact protocols that were developed decades ago but never implemented. The frameworks address everything from economic stabilization to information management during humanity's transition from cosmic isolation to galactic citizenship. Religious institutions worldwide report receiving guidance from government liaisons about theological preparation for discoveries that might challenge traditional doctrines about humanity's unique status in creation. The consultations suggest institutional awareness of impending revelations that could trigger widespread spiritual crisis without proper preparation. Educational systems implement new curricula that subtly prepare students for expanded cosmic perspectives. Science textbooks undergo revision to include more extensive coverage of astrobiology and the statistical likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence. The changes suggest institutional preparation for educational frameworks that will soon need to accommodate confirmed rather than theoretical concepts. Media organizations receive briefings about responsible reporting practices during paradigm transition periods that could affect social stability. The guidelines address how to communicate revolutionary discoveries without triggering panic or social disruption, suggesting advanced knowledge of what type of discoveries might need such careful communication management. The psychological preparation extends into civilian sectors through what appear to be routine public relations campaigns. Science museums worldwide launch educational programs about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and the implications of potential contact. The timing suggests coordination designed to prepare public consciousness for revelations that might otherwise cause widespread cognitive disruption. Hollywood productions scheduled for release during late 2025 and early 2026 show unusual clustering around themes of benevolent first contact and humanity's integration into galactic civilization. The entertainment industry's preparation suggests cultural conditioning designed to ease social transition toward accepting non-terrestrial intelligence as reality rather than science fiction. Social media platforms implement new algorithms that promote content discussing the scientific search for extraterrestrial life while suppressing conspiracy theories and fear-based speculation. The content management suggests preparation for maintaining social stability during information releases that might otherwise trigger widespread anxiety or irrational responses. The comprehensive civilian preparation reveals institutional assessment that 3I Atlas confirmation will require massive social adaptation rather than simple scientific acknowledgement. When governments prepare for paradigm disruption events, religious crisis counseling, and cultural conditioning simultaneously, they're expecting discoveries that challenge fundamental assumptions about reality itself. But the most disturbing aspect of this comprehensive preparation isn't its scope. It's what it reveals about the timeline. The infrastructure being activated wasn't developed in response to 3I Atlas's discovery in July. The frameworks, protocols, and institutional relationships were established long before civilian science detected this interstellar visitor. The preparation suggests that 3I Atlas represents confirmation of intelligence that government agencies have been aware of for years or decades, rather than humanity's first encounter with non-terrestrial technology. The comprehensive readiness indicates advanced knowledge of not just the object's artificial nature, but its intentions and the timeline for revealing those intentions to human civilization. The Mars encounter on October 3rd might represent less of a discovery than a predetermined demonstration. The institutional preparation suggests that whatever 3I Atlas reveals during its close approach to the red planet will confirm intelligence assessments that have been guiding government policy for much longer than the public has been aware of its existence. The spacecraft observations will either document the most sophisticated natural phenomenon ever recorded or provide definitive proof that advanced intelligence operates on interstellar scales and has been studying human civilization for extended periods. But the institutional preparation suggests they already know which scenario they're documenting. The countdown continues toward what civilian science expects to be humanity's greatest discovery. But the government preparation suggests we're approaching something more like a graduation ceremony, where humanity finally learns about cosmic relationships that have been developing behind the scenes of public awareness. The closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more it becomes clear that this encounter represents not first contact, but rather the conclusion of a contact process that began long before July 2025. The institutional readiness suggests we're about to witness the culmination of decades of preparation for humanity's introduction to intelligence that spans the galaxy. The Mars flyby will reveal whether we're dealing with unprecedented natural phenomena or the most carefully managed disclosure of humanity's cosmic neighbors. But the comprehensive institutional preparation suggests they've been planning for this moment much longer than they've been willing to admit. October 3rd might mark the day when humanity officially joins a conversation that has been taking place among the stars since long before we learned to look up and wonder if anyone was listening to our radio signals bleeding into the cosmic dark. The institutional preparation suggests they already know the answer, and they've been getting ready to share it with us for a very long time. The final 72 hours before encounter will determine whether decades of preparation were justified by genuine advanced intelligence about our cosmic neighbors, or represent the most elaborate precautionary measures in human history. Either way, the closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more alien it looks. And the more our institutions act like they've been expecting visitors from interstellar space all along. The countdown continues, but the outcome might already be determined by agreements made in rooms where humanity's future gets decided without consulting the civilization. Those decisions will transform forever. The institutional machinery grinding into motion around the Mars encounter reveals something that should terrify anyone who understands how government agencies operate under normal circumstances. This isn't preparation for a scientific discovery. This is preparation for managing the aftermath of confirming what they already know to be true. the deep space network facilities maintaining communication with our Mars fleet, have implemented what they euphemistically call enhanced data prioritization protocols for October 3rd. But when you examine the technical specifications, you're looking at infrastructure designed to handle information that could collapse stock markets and trigger religious crises within hours of public release. Dr. Michael Rodriguez at the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex describes receiving equipment upgrades that exceed anything required for routine planetary science. The signal processing capabilities being deployed can isolate artificial electromagnetic signatures from cosmic background noise with precision that suggests they're not just hoping to find such signatures, they're expecting them. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter received software patches in early September that enhanced its ability to detect geometric regularity and artificial construction patterns. These weren't routine maintenance updates. The new algorithms can identify structures, surface modifications, and material compositions that don't occur through natural geological processes. When you upgrade a Mars orbiter to recognize alien architecture, you're not preparing to study ice crystals sublimating from a comet. But the personnel assignments reveal the true scope of institutional preparation. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory has quietly staffed its Mars encounter operations with specialists whose expertise has nothing to do with conventional planetary science. Linguists trained in mathematical communication protocols, cryptographers experienced in pattern recognition and signal analysis, even xenobiologists whose theoretical frameworks address biological systems that might operate under non-terrestrial conditions. The European Space Operations Centre has assembled a similar team, bringing together experts in fields that shouldn't be relevant to comet observation. Atmospheric physicists who specialize in artificial propulsion signatures. Materials scientists whose previous work involved analyzing exotic electromagnetic properties. Cultural anthropologists whose research focuses on first contact scenarios between civilizations with vastly different technological capabilities. You don't assign anthropologists and xenobiologists to routine astronomical observations unless you're expecting to encounter phenomena that transcend natural science into the realm of intelligence, technology, and potentially even diplomacy. The expertise being assembled reads like preparation for humanity's first official contact with non-terrestrial civilization, rather than documentation of unusual ice sublimation patterns. The classified briefing schedules reveal coordination that extends far beyond scientific curiosity. Senior officials from intelligence agencies, military leadership, diplomatic corps, and economic policymakers have cleared their calendars for extended sessions during the first week of October. These aren't routine science updates. They're crisis management preparations for information that could fundamentally alter human civilization's trajectory within days of confirmation. Emergency response protocols activated across multiple government agencies focus on scenarios that have nothing to do with natural disasters or conventional threats. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has developed contingency plans for what they diplomatically term paradigm disruption events that include everything from preventing bank runs to managing religious extremist responses to confirmed extraterrestrial contact. The Department of Homeland Security has issued advisories to critical infrastructure operators about potential technological interference patterns that might affect power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems during early October. The warnings lack specific threat identification, but recommend preparation for scenarios involving electromagnetic phenomena that exceed natural explanations. International coordination has reached levels typically reserved for managing global financial crises or preventing nuclear conflicts. Secure communication channels established between Mars mission control centers operate on quantum encryption standards that exceed requirements for protecting state secrets. The infrastructure suggests preparation for information that carries implications beyond national security into species-level existential concerns. The European Union's emergency response mechanisms have been quietly activated for scenarios involving contact event management that were developed decades ago as theoretical exercises but never implemented. The frameworks address everything from economic stabilization to social psychology during humanity's potential transition from cosmic isolation to galactic awareness. Similar preparations appear simultaneously across allied nations' governmental structures. The coordination suggests international agreement about managing confirmation of what 3I Atlas represents, rather than uncertainty about what might be discovered during the Mars encounter. When multiple countries implement identical protocols simultaneously, you're witnessing execution of predetermined plans rather than improvised responses to unexpected developments. Religious institutions worldwide report receiving unprecedented guidance from government liaisons about theological preparation for discoveries that might challenge traditional doctrines regarding humanity's unique status in creation. The consultations suggest institutional awareness of impending revelations that could trigger widespread spiritual crisis without proper psychological preparation. The Vatican has quietly convened theological committees to address questions about salvation, divine purpose, and cosmic hierarchy that might arise from confirmed contact with technologically superior civilizations. Protestant denominational leadership has received similar briefings about maintaining congregational stability during what officials describe as cosmological perspective expansion events. Islamic scholarly institutions have activated frameworks for interpreting Quranic references to life throughout the heavens in light of potential confirmation that such life includes technological civilizations. Buddhist and Hindu traditions, already comfortable with cosmic scales and multiple realms of consciousness, report the least institutional disruption from contact preparation protocols. Educational systems implement new curricula that subtly prepare students for expanded cosmic perspectives without explicitly acknowledging what might be coming. Science textbooks undergo revision to include more comprehensive coverage of astrobiology, the statistical likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence, and the implications of potential contact for human civilization. The changes suggest institutional preparation for educational frameworks that will soon need to accommodate confirmed rather than theoretical concepts about cosmic intelligence. When school systems start teaching contact protocols alongside traditional astronomy, they're preparing for realities that transcend academic speculation. Media organizations receive detailed briefings about responsible reporting practices during paradigm transition periods that could affect global social stability. The guidelines address how to communicate revolutionary discoveries without triggering panic, economic disruption, or social violence, suggesting advanced knowledge of what type of discoveries might require such careful communication management. Major news networks have established dedicated teams trained in covering unprecedented scientific developments with emphasis on maintaining public calm during information releases that might otherwise cause widespread cognitive disruption. The preparation suggests editorial readiness for stories that transcend conventional journalism into crisis communication. Social media platforms implement algorithmic modifications that promote educational content about extraterrestrial life while suppressing conspiracy theories and fear-based speculation. The content management appears designed to prepare public consciousness for accepting extraordinary revelations without triggering irrational responses or social instability. Hollywood productions scheduled for release during late 2025 and early 2026 show statistically improbable clustering around themes of benevolent first contact and humanity's integration into galactic civilization. The entertainment industry's preparation suggests cultural conditioning designed to ease societal transition toward accepting non-terrestrial intelligence as confirmed reality rather than science fiction speculation. The psychological preparation extends into civilian sectors through what appear to be routine public awareness campaigns. Science museums worldwide launch educational programs about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and the implications of potential contact. The timing suggests coordination designed to prepare public consciousness for revelations that might otherwise cause widespread cognitive disruption. But the most revealing aspect of this comprehensive preparation involves timeline analysis. The infrastructure being activated wasn't developed in response to 3I Atlas's discovery in July. The frameworks, protocols, and institutional relationships were established through years or decades of planning that preceded public awareness of this interstellar visitor. Government procurement records show contracts for paradigm management consulting dating back to the early 2000s. Emergency response protocols for non-conventional contact scenarios appear in agency planning documents from 2018. International coordination agreements for managing cosmic perspective transitions were negotiated during the previous decade. The preparation timeline suggests that 3I Atlas represents confirmation of intelligence that government agencies have been tracking for years, rather than humanity's first encounter with non-terrestrial technology. The comprehensive readiness indicates advanced knowledge not just of the object's artificial nature, but of its mission timeline and intentions regarding human civilization. Military space surveillance capabilities far exceed what civilian science can access. If 3I Atlas exhibited artificial characteristics detectable only by classified sensor systems, advanced institutional knowledge becomes explicable through conventional intelligence gathering. Classified satellites monitor electromagnetic signatures, thermal anomalies, and trajectory modifications with sensitivity that dwarfs civilian astronomical capabilities. But the personnel assignments and institutional preparation suggest intelligence sources that transcend passive surveillance. The expertise being assembled addresses scenarios involving active communication, technological interaction, and diplomatic contact, rather than mere observation of artificial phenomena. The linguistic specialists aren't trained to analyze random signals. They're experts in structured communication protocols, designed for interaction between species with different cognitive architectures. The xenobiologists aren't theoretical researchers. They're specialists in biological systems that might operate under non-terrestrial conditions, suggesting institutional awareness of living intelligence rather than automated technology. The cultural anthropologists focus on managing contact between civilizations with vastly different technological capabilities, addressing scenarios where humanity represents the primitive civilization receiving contact from advanced intelligence, rather than discovering evidence of extinct civilizations through archaeological investigation. The expertise combination suggests institutional preparation for active diplomatic contact, rather than scientific discovery of artifacts or signals from distant civilizations. When government agencies staff for real-time communication and cultural negotiation, they're expecting interaction with living intelligence operating on contemporary timescales. The Mars encounter represents more than scientific observation opportunity. The institutional framework suggests preparation for potential technological demonstration, communication attempt, or even diplomatic presentation that might occur during 3I Atlas's close approach to spacecraft operated by human civilization. If 3I Atlas exhibits interactive capabilities during its Mars passage, the comprehensive preparation suggests institutions are ready to manage whatever forms that interaction might take. Communication protocols, technological analysis, diplomatic response, even economic and social stability during humanity's introduction to confirmed galactic intelligence. The countdown continues toward October 3rd, but the institutional preparation reveals that this encounter has been anticipated and planned for much longer than civilian science has been aware of 3I Atlas's existence. The readiness suggests advanced intelligence about not just what's approaching Mars, but what that approach is intended to accomplish. When spacecraft observations begin documenting 3I Atlas's behavior during its Mars flyby, they'll be recording events that government agencies have been preparing to manage for years. The question isn't whether those observations will reveal artificial characteristics, The question is how institutions will manage public reaction to confirmation of what they've apparently known all along. The closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more it reveals about the gap between institutional knowledge and public information. That gap might represent the most significant discovery about humanity's cosmic situation, regardless of what the interstellar visitor itself demonstrates during its encounter with our robotic explorers. The countdown to October 3rd continues, but the outcome appears predetermined by preparation that began long before July 2025. The institutional readiness suggests we're approaching confirmation rather than discovery, revelation rather than investigation. The Mars encounter will determine whether decades of preparation were justified by genuine advanced intelligence about cosmic neighbors, or represent the most elaborate precautionary measures in human history. But the comprehensive institutional response suggests they already know which scenario they're managing. Either way, the closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more alien it appears, and the more our institutions reveal that they've been expecting visitors from interstellar space for much longer than they've been willing to acknowledge publicly. The next 48 hours will test whether humanity's governmental structures possess the transparency necessary for managing discoveries that could revolutionize our understanding of intelligence, technology, and cosmic civilization itself. The institutional preparation suggests that TEST was designed to have a predetermined outcome, established through decades of planning for a moment that was always intended to arrive on schedule. October 3rd approaches with the precision of clockwork, but the most significant countdown might involve institutional disclosure rather than astronomical observation. The Mars encounter could mark the moment when decades of cosmic secrecy finally yield to realities that can no longer be suppressed or managed through information control. The closer we get to that moment, the more obvious it becomes that humanity's introduction to galactic intelligence was always planned as a carefully managed process rather than an accidental discovery. The question remaining is whether that management serves humanity's interests or priorities, established through negotiations that occurred long before civilian science learned to detect visitors from the space between stars. The institutional preparation suggests we're about to discover which civilization has been making decisions about humanity's cosmic future without consulting the species. Those decisions will transform forever. The institutional machinery isn't just preparing for October 3rd anymore, it's preparing for what comes after. As we stand less than 10 days from the Mars encounter, the framework being established extends far beyond managing a single astronomical event into something that looks suspiciously like permanent infrastructure for ongoing cosmic diplomacy. The Deep Space Network's communication upgrades weren't designed for temporary use during one flyby observation. The quantum encryption protocols, the enhanced bandwidth allocation, the priority routing systems, they're all built for sustained long-term operation. When you examine the technical specifications, you're looking at infrastructure designed to handle regular communication with sources that possess technological capabilities far exceeding human understanding. Dr. Patricia Wong at the Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex describes receiving hardware installations that exceed anything required for Mars mission support. The new systems can process and relay structured signals with mathematical complexity that suggests preparation for ongoing dialogue rather than one-time data collection. These aren't temporary modifications for studying ice sublimation. These are permanent upgrades for managing interstellar communication protocols. The personnel assignments reveal even more disturbing patterns of long-term preparation. The specialists being brought into Mars encounter operations aren't on temporary assignment. They're being permanently integrated into what appears to be a new branch of space operations that didn't exist 6 months ago. The organizational charts show reporting structures that bypass traditional NASA hierarchy, connecting directly to agencies that operate under classification levels that exceed routine space science requirements. International coordination agreements signed during the past month establish frameworks that extend decades into the future. These aren't protocols for managing one scientific discovery. They're treaties that govern how human civilization will interface with non-terrestrial intelligence on an ongoing basis. The legal language addresses scenarios involving regular contact, technology transfer, and what the documents diplomatically term species integration protocols. The European Space Agency has established a new directorate for advanced phenomena analysis that operates under security clearances typically reserved for military intelligence operations. The staffing includes permanent positions for specialists in xenolinguistics, interstellar propulsion analysis, and what they euphemistically call cultural transition management. You don't create permanent bureaucratic structures for managing one unusual comet. Similar organizational changes appear simultaneously across space agencies worldwide. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency creates a non-terrestrial contact division. The Indian Space Research Organization establishes a Cosmic Intelligence Interface Program. The coordination suggests international agreement about institutionalizing capabilities that will be needed for ongoing, rather than one-time interactions. The budgetary allocations tell their own story about institutional expectations. Congressional appropriations approved during the past month include line items for extended deep space communication infrastructure and paradigm transition support services that span multiple fiscal years. These aren't emergency funds for managing one scientific discovery. They're long-term investments in capabilities that suggest regular need for managing cosmic intelligence interactions. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has established permanent protocols for what they call recurring paradigm adjustment events. The frameworks address not just initial public reaction to confirmed extraterrestrial contact, but ongoing social adaptation to regular interaction with technologically superior civilizations. The preparation suggests institutional expectation that 3I Atlas represents the beginning of sustained contact, rather than an isolated encounter. Educational system modifications extend far beyond subtle curriculum adjustments into comprehensive restructuring of how human knowledge gets organized and transmitted. Universities worldwide are establishing new departments that combine traditional disciplines in ways designed to prepare students for careers involving interstellar science, cosmic engineering, and what administrators diplomatically term galactic cultural studies. The changes aren't temporary responses to one discovery. They're fundamental reorganizations of human knowledge structures designed to accommodate realities that transcend terrestrial science. When academic institutions start granting degrees in xenoarchaeology and interstellar diplomacy, they're preparing for career paths that assume regular interaction with cosmic intelligence. Medical institutions implement terrestrial biological new specializations in non-systems and cosmic radiation adaptation protocols. The preparations suggest institutional awareness that human contact with advanced civilizations might involve biological challenges or opportunities that require specialized medical expertise. These aren't theoretical research programs. These are practical preparations for managing human health during sustained interaction with non-terrestrial environments or beings. The psychological support infrastructure being established extends far beyond crisis counseling into permanent therapeutic frameworks for helping human civilization adapt to cosmic citizenship. Mental health professionals receive training in species-scale identity adjustment and cosmic perspective integration therapy. The preparation suggests institutional expectation that adapting to confirmed galactic intelligence will require ongoing psychological support rather than brief adjustment periods. Religious institutions worldwide have activated frameworks for theological evolution that extend decades into the future. The Vatican establishes permanent committees for cosmic theological interpretation. Protestant denominations create new seminary programs addressing galactic evangelism and interstellar pastoral care. The preparation suggests institutional recognition that human spiritual frameworks will require fundamental reconstruction rather than minor adjustments. The economic preparations reveal perhaps the most significant evidence of institutional expectations about sustained cosmic contact. central banks worldwide implement new protocols for managing technology disruption events that could fundamentally alter human economic systems. The frameworks address scenarios where advanced alien technology might obsolete entire industries or create new economic opportunities that transcend terrestrial resource limitations. International trade agreements undergo revision to include provisions for non-terrestrial commerce and galactic economic integration. The legal language addresses scenarios involving technology transfer, resource exchange, and economic relationships with civilizations possessing capabilities that dwarf human industrial capacity. These aren't theoretical frameworks. These are practical preparations for economic realities that might emerge from sustained contact. Stock exchanges implement new trading categories for cosmic technology sectors and interstellar resource development. The market preparations suggest investor awareness that confirmed contact might create investment opportunities involving technologies and resources that transcend terrestrial limitations. When financial markets start pricing in galactic civilization, they're preparing for economic transformation rather than academic curiosity. The military preparations extend beyond enhanced readiness into fundamental restructuring of defense priorities and capabilities. Space Force components undergo reorganization designed for scenarios involving asymmetric technological interaction rather than conventional threats. The preparation addresses realities where human military capabilities might be irrelevant compared to technologies possessed by interstellar civilizations. New doctrine development focuses on cooperative security frameworks and species-level diplomatic protection, rather than traditional concepts of national defense against terrestrial threats. The preparation suggests military recognition that confirmed contact with technologically superior civilizations requires entirely different strategic thinking than conventional warfare or deterrence. International security cooperation reaches unprecedented levels of integration, suggesting recognition that cosmic contact represents species-level rather than national-level challenges. NATO establishes working groups on interstellar security coordination. The United Nations Security Council creates permanent committees for cosmic diplomatic oversight. The preparation treats confirmed contact as requiring unified human response rather than competitive national advantages. The infrastructure being established operates on assumptions that extend far beyond October 3rd into decades of ongoing interaction with cosmic intelligence. When institutions create permanent bureaucracies, establish long-term budgets, and restructure fundamental organizational principles, they're not responding to one discovery. They're adapting to new operational realities that they expect to persist indefinitely. But the most revealing aspect of this comprehensive institutional restructuring involves timing that predates 3 iAtlas discovery by years. Government contract databases show procurement for species transition consulting dating back to 2019. International agreements addressing cosmic contact protocols were negotiated during the previous decade. Academic program development for interstellar studies began in 2021. The preparation timeline suggests that 3 iAtlas represents a predetermined milestone in a contact process that has been developing behind the scenes for years, rather than an unexpected discovery requiring improvised institutional response. The comprehensive readiness indicates advanced planning for revelations that were always scheduled to occur around this time frame. Military space surveillance capabilities possess sensor systems that dwarf civilian astronomical equipment in sensitivity and coverage. If cosmic intelligence had been approaching our solar system for years, classified detection would have preceded civilian discovery by considerable margins. The institutional preparation timeline aligns with advanced intelligence gathered through capabilities that the public never knew existed. But the scope of preparation extends beyond what passive surveillance could provide into frameworks that address active communication and ongoing diplomatic relationships. The linguistic specialists aren't trained to analyze random signals. They're experts in established communication protocols for interaction with known intelligence rather than theoretical frameworks for hypothetical contact. The cultural anthropologists focus on managing relationships with specific civilizations whose characteristics and intentions are already understood, rather than general preparation for unknown contact scenarios. The expertise being assembled addresses ongoing diplomatic relationships, rather than first contact uncertainty. The institutional preparation suggests that 3I Atlas represents public revelation of cosmic relationships that have been developing through classified channels for years. The October 3rd encounter might mark humanity's official introduction to galactic neighbors who have been working with human governments through undisclosed diplomatic processes that preceded civilian awareness. The Mars flyby could represent a demonstration designed to provide public proof of intelligence that security agencies have been coordinating with behind the scenes of democratic oversight. The comprehensive preparation suggests not discovery, but disclosure, not first contact, but public acknowledgement of relationships that have been operating through classified channels. If cosmic intelligence has been working with human institutions for years, the current preparation makes perfect sense as infrastructure for transitioning those relationships from classified secrecy to public diplomacy. The frameworks being established address ongoing management of relationships that already exist, rather than theoretical preparation for contact that might occur. The timeline evidence suggests that 3I Atlas arrival was coordinated with human institutions, rather than representing an independent decision by cosmic intelligence to visit our solar system. The precision of institutional preparation indicates advanced knowledge of not just what's coming, but when it was scheduled to arrive. The Mars encounter represents a predetermined milestone in a contact process designed to gradually introduce human civilization to cosmic realities that government agencies have been managing for years without democratic oversight or public awareness. The October 3rd demonstration will provide undeniable proof of intelligence that security establishments have been coordinating with through channels that bypass civilian institutions. The comprehensive preparation reveals that humanity's cosmic future has been negotiated through secret diplomatic processes that excluded the civilization whose future was being determined. The institutional readiness suggests that public revelation will confirm agreements made years ago in classified briefing rooms, where humanity's galactic integration was planned without consulting the species being integrated. The countdown to October 3rd continues, but the most significant revelation might involve discovering how long human institutions have been operating under cosmic oversight without informing the democratic societies they're supposed to serve. The Mars encounter could mark the moment when decades of classified cosmic diplomacy finally becomes public knowledge. The closer 3I Atlas gets to Mars, the more obvious it becomes that this encounter represents disclosure rather than discovery, revelation of existing relationships rather than first contact with unknown intelligence. The institutional preparation suggests we're about to learn that humanity's cosmic future has already been decided through negotiations that occurred long before civilian science detected visitors from interstellar space. The question remaining isn't whether we're alone in the galaxy. The question is how long we've been under galactic supervision without knowing it, and whether the democratic institutions we thought were governing our civilization have been operating under cosmic oversight that transcends terrestrial authority. The Mars flyby will reveal not just what 3I Atlas represents, but what humanity's real governmental structure looks like when cosmic relationships that have been hidden for years finally become impossible to suppress or manage through information control. The institutional preparation suggests that discovery was always scheduled to arrive precisely on time, delivered through carefully managed processes designed to minimize disruption while maximizing control over humanity's transition from cosmic isolation to galactic integration. October 3rd approaches with the precision of diplomatic scheduling rather than the uncertainty of scientific discovery. The countdown continues toward revelation of cosmic relationships that have been shaping human civilization from behind the scenes for much longer than democratic institutions have been willing to acknowledge. The The closer we get to Mars encounter, the more obvious it becomes that the most significant discovery won't involve 3I Atlas itself. It will involve learning what our own institutions have been hiding about humanity's place in a galactic civilization that we've apparently been part of for years without our knowledge or consent. The institutional preparation suggests that cosmic disclosure was always planned as a managed transition rather than an accidental discovery. The question is whether that management serves humanity's interests or priorities, established through secret agreements that excluded the species whose future was being negotiated. The classified preparation extends into sectors that should have nothing to do with astronomical observations. Defense contractors report receiving urgent requests for proposals involving rapid atmospheric entry vehicle detection systems and electromagnetic signature isolation protocols that suggest institutional concerns about phenomena far exceeding natural comet behavior. When military suppliers start developing hardware to track objects entering Earth's atmosphere with characteristics that don't match conventional meteorological or aerospace profiles, you're witnessing preparation for scenarios that transcend civilian space science. Raytheon Technologies receives contracts for anomalous trajectory analysis systems that can identify flight paths exhibiting controlled maneuvering rather than ballistic physics. Lockheed Martin develops exotic propulsion signature detection arrays designed to recognize electromagnetic emissions that don't match any known terrestrial or conventional space technology. Boeing's Phantom Works division activates programs for non-conventional material analysis platforms capable of studying substances with properties that exceed current materials science understanding. The defense industry preparation reveals institutional expectations that 3I Atlas might deploy secondary systems or demonstrate capabilities that require immediate technological response rather than passive scientific observation. When weapons manufacturers start building detection systems for controlled atmospheric entry vehicles, they're preparing for active technological demonstrations rather than routine comet fragmentation events. International arms control organizations implement new monitoring protocols for non-attribution technology events that might affect strategic stability between nations. The frameworks address scenarios where advanced technology demonstrations could alter military balance through capabilities that no terrestrial power possesses. The preparation suggests institutional concerns about technological revelations that might destabilize existing defense relationships. The Nuclear Threat Initiative establishes working groups on asymmetric capability emergence that address scenarios where confirmed advanced technology might render conventional military doctrine obsolete. Similar preparations appear in strategic studies institutes worldwide, suggesting coordinated assessment of how cosmic intelligence confirmation might affect terrestrial power structures. Agricultural monitoring systems receive upgrades that enhance their ability to detect unusual growth patterns and non-standard biological modifications in crop production areas. The Department of Agriculture implements new protocols for investigating anomalous agricultural phenomena that might indicate technological intervention in food production systems. The preparation suggests institutional concerns that 3I Atlas demonstration might extend beyond atmospheric displays into direct interaction with Earth's biological or agricultural systems. When farming agencies start monitoring for alien intervention in crop production, they're preparing for contact scenarios that involve practical technological assistance rather than distant astronomical observations. Water resource management agencies implement enhanced monitoring for chemical composition anomalies and purification events that might indicate technological intervention in freshwater systems. The Environmental Protection Agency establishes rapid response teams for investigating non-conventional environmental modifications that could affect regional ecosystems. The environmental monitoring preparation suggests institutional awareness that confirmed advanced technology might offer solutions to terrestrial resource challenges while requiring careful oversight to prevent unintended consequences. When water management agencies prepare for alien water purification technology, They're expecting practical technological assistance rather than theoretical scientific discovery. Medical research institutions receive funding for accelerated development protocols and non-terrestrial therapeutic evaluation systems that suggest preparation for analyzing medical technologies that exceed current pharmaceutical understanding. The National Institutes of Health activates programs for studying exotic biological interaction mechanisms that might emerge from contact with advanced civilizations. Hospital systems implement new protocols for treating exposure events involving non-conventional therapeutic interventions that might affect human physiology in ways that current medical training doesn't address. Emergency medical services receive equipment for detecting and monitoring unusual physiological modifications that might result from contact with advanced medical technology. The healthcare preparation reveals institutional expectations that 3I Atlas encounter might provide access to medical capabilities that could revolutionize human health while requiring careful management to prevent adverse reactions or social disruption from technological healing that exceeds current medical understanding. Communication infrastructure receives modifications that enhance its resilience against structured electromagnetic interference and coordinated signal disruption events that might accompany technological demonstrations. The Federal Communications Commission implements new protocols for maintaining civilian communication during high electromagnetic activity periods that could affect terrestrial broadcasting and internet systems. Satellite operators receive guidance about protective positioning protocols during early October that suggest institutional concerns about electromagnetic phenomena that might interfere with orbital assets. The procedures address scenarios where advanced technology demonstrations could disrupt civilian communication infrastructure through electromagnetic effects that exceed natural space weather events. The communication preparation suggests institutional awareness that 3I Atlas might demonstrate electromagnetic capabilities that could inadvertently interfere with human technology while conducting whatever demonstration is planned for the Mars encounter. The protective measures indicate concern for maintaining civilian communication during events that might generate electromagnetic signatures far exceeding natural phenomena. Transportation systems implement new monitoring for atmospheric anomaly events that might affect aviation safety during early October. The Federal Aviation Administration establishes protocols for rapid airspace restriction and aircraft rerouting during electromagnetic signature events that could interfere with navigation systems or aircraft electronics. Railway systems receive upgrades to their electromagnetic interference protection, suggesting preparation for phenomena that might affect ground-based transportation through electromagnetic effects that exceed current space weather protection capabilities. Port authorities implement similar preparations for maritime navigation systems that might be vulnerable to unusual electromagnetic activity. The transportation preparation reveals institutional concerns that 3I Atlas demonstration might generate electromagnetic effects powerful enough to interfere with civilian transportation infrastructure, requiring coordinated protection measures to prevent accidents or system failures during whatever technological display is planned. Energy grid operators receive equipment designed to detect and isolate non-standard power fluctuations that might result from external electromagnetic influences during early October. Power companies implement new load balancing protocols for managing unusual energy input events that could affect regional electrical distribution. The electrical grid preparation suggests institutional awareness that advanced technology demonstration might interact with terrestrial power systems in ways that could either disrupt or enhance electrical distribution. The protective measures indicate concern for maintaining power stability during events that might involve electromagnetic phenomena far exceeding natural space weather effects. Solar energy installations receive modifications that enhance their ability to process enhanced electromagnetic input while protecting against overload scenarios that might result from electromagnetic activity exceeding normal solar irradiance patterns. Wind power systems implement similar protections against electromagnetic interference that might affect turbine control systems. The renewable energy preparation suggests institutional expectations that 3I Atlas might demonstrate energy technologies that could provide practical assistance with terrestrial power generation while requiring careful management to prevent infrastructure damage from energy levels that exceed current system capabilities. Financial institutions implement new protocols for system integrity maintenance during paradigm transition periods that might affect electronic trading and banking operations. The Federal Reserve establishes contingency procedures for managing currency stability events that could result from technological demonstrations affecting public confidence in existing economic systems. Stock exchanges activate protective measures against coordinated algorithmic disruption and market manipulation events that might accompany revelation of advanced technology capabilities. The Securities and Exchange Commission establishes rapid response teams for investigating non-conventional market influence patterns that might result from confirmed technological superiority. The financial preparation reveals institutional concerns that 3I Atlas demonstration might trigger economic instability through public reaction to confirmed advanced technology rather than direct technological interference with financial systems. The protective measures address social and psychological rather than technical threats to economic stability. International monetary organizations implement new frameworks for managing technological disruption events that might affect global trade relationships and currency valuations. The World Bank establishes protocols for economic transition support during periods when confirmed advanced technology might obsolete existing industrial capabilities. The global financial preparation suggests institutional recognition that confirmed cosmic intelligence might fundamentally alter human economic systems through technology transfer or technological assistance that exceeds terrestrial industrial capacity. The frameworks address managed economic transformation rather than crisis response to unexpected disruption. Academic institutions worldwide implement new security protocols for managing sensitive research materials and non-conventional data sets that might emerge from confirmed contact with advanced technology. Universities establish special handling procedures for exotic scientific information that might require classification or controlled dissemination to prevent misuse. Research funding agencies create new categories for paradigm-shifting investigation support and technological integration analysis that suggest preparation for managing research programs involving confirmed advanced technology. The National Science Foundation establishes protocols for accelerated peer review during periods when revolutionary discoveries might require rapid scientific validation. The academic preparation reveals institutional expectations that 3I Atlas encounter might provide access to scientific information that could accelerate human technological development while requiring careful management to prevent premature or dangerous applications of advanced knowledge. Library systems implement new cataloging standards for non-terrestrial information resources and exotic knowledge preservation protocols that suggest preparation for managing information that exceeds current human knowledge frameworks. The Library of Congress establishes special collections procedures for cosmic intelligence documentation that might require unique preservation and access controls. The information management preparation suggests institutional awareness that confirmed contact might involve substantial information transfer that could overwhelm existing knowledge organization systems while requiring careful curation to ensure accurate preservation and appropriate access controls. Archaeological institutions receive funding for rapid excavation protocols and anomalous artifact analysis systems that suggest preparation for discovering evidence of previous cosmic intelligence contact that might have been overlooked or misinterpreted in existing archaeological records. The Smithsonian Institution establishes new departments for cosmic archaeology and interstellar artifact preservation that suggest institutional preparation for managing physical evidence of advanced technology that might emerge from confirmed contact scenarios. The archaeological preparation reveals institutional expectations that 3I Atlas confirmation might prompt re-examination of existing artifact collections and historical records that could contain evidence of previous cosmic intelligence contact that was dismissed or misunderstood using traditional archaeological frameworks. Museums worldwide implement new exhibition protocols for paradigm-shifting discovery presentation and public education during transition periods that suggest preparation for displaying evidence of cosmic intelligence while managing public reaction to revelations that might challenge fundamental assumptions about human history and development. The Louvre establishes special exhibition spaces for cosmic cultural artifacts, while the British Museum creates new departments for interstellar archaeological interpretation that suggest institutional preparation for displaying physical evidence of galactic civilization. The cultural institution preparation reveals expectations that 3I Atlas encounter might provide artifacts, information, or evidence that requires immediate public exhibition while managing social reaction to discoveries that could fundamentally alter human understanding of our species' place in cosmic history. Legal institutions implement new frameworks for non-terrestrial jurisprudence and interstellar law interpretation that suggest preparation for legal questions involving cosmic intelligence rights, technology ownership, and jurisdictional authority over contact scenarios that exceed existing international law frameworks. The Supreme Court establishes working groups on constitutional interpretation during paradigm expansion that address scenarios where confirmed cosmic intelligence might raise questions about human legal authority and democratic governance that weren't anticipated by existing constitutional frameworks. The legal preparation suggests institutional recognition that confirmed contact might require fundamental re-evaluation of human legal systems and governmental authority when dealing with intelligence that possesses technological capabilities far exceeding terrestrial power structures. International courts implement new procedures for species-level arbitration and cosmic diplomatic oversight that suggest preparation for legal disputes involving relationships between human civilization and cosmic intelligence that possess superior technological capabilities. The Hague establishes permanent tribunals for interstellar conflict resolution and galactic diplomatic interpretation that suggest institutional preparation for ongoing legal relationships with cosmic intelligence rather than one-time contact events. The international legal preparation reveals expectations that 3I Atlas encounter will establish ongoing diplomatic and legal relationships that require permanent institutional frameworks rather than temporary crisis management during brief contact scenarios. Every aspect of human institutional infrastructure undergoes modification designed to accommodate realities that transcend terrestrial limitations while managing social adaptation to cosmic citizenship that preserves stability during humanity's transition from isolation to galactic integration. The comprehensive preparation extends across every sector of human civilization, suggesting institutional recognition that 3I Atlas represents not just scientific discovery, but fundamental transformation of humanity's operational reality within cosmic civilization that has been developing behind the scenes of public awareness. The countdown to October 3rd continues, but the institutional framework reveals that this encounter represents culmination of preparation that extends far beyond managing one astronomical event into permanent infrastructure for ongoing cosmic relationships that will define humanity's future among the stars. The closer 3I Atlas approaches Mars, the more obvious it becomes that human institutions have been preparing for cosmic integration rather than cosmic contact, suggesting that this encounter represents revelation of relationships that have been developing for years rather than first contact with unknown intelligence. The institutional preparation suggests that October 3rd will mark humanity's graduation from cosmic isolation into galactic citizenship that has been negotiated through classified diplomatic processes that excluded democratic oversight of decisions that will transform human civilization forever. The Mars encounter approaches with the precision of predetermined demonstration, rather than the uncertainty of scientific discovery, revealing that humanity's cosmic future has been planned by institutions that possess authority transcending terrestrial democratic processes. The final countdown reveals preparation for managed disclosure of cosmic relationships rather than improvised response to unexpected contact, suggesting that 3I Atlas represents confirmation of agreements made in classified briefing rooms where humanity's galactic integration was planned without consulting the species being integrated. As we stand on the precipice of October 3rd, watching 3I Atlas hurtle toward its rendezvous with Mars at impossible speeds, one truth has become undeniable. This isn't just an interstellar comet behaving strangely. This is something that challenges every assumption we've held about our place in the cosmos, wrapped in institutional secrecy that extends far beyond anything required for routine scientific discovery. The closer it gets to the red planet, the more it reveals about gaps in our knowledge that might have been filled long ago in classified briefing rooms where humanity's cosmic future gets decided without our consent. Whether we're witnessing the most unusual natural phenomenon ever documented, or the carefully orchestrated revelation of relationships that have been developing behind the scenes for decades, one thing is certain. After October 3rd, nothing will ever be the same.